done than we are. They're in for $150 billion less because Biden and you don't have the courage to ask Europe like I did with NATO. They paid.
That's going to be our intro.
Who's ready?
I'm ready.
I am.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Be Better Boys. This is Zach, your host. We have a full house here tonight for the debate.
What up?
Our long-awaited co-host has returned, the prodigal son.
Jordan is back.
What up, dog?
I'm just like, all right, go on. Sorry.
We're a few minutes behind, but we haven't watched anything because of some technical difficulties. But
What are we watching?
we're watching the debate.
Skip to the live debate.
What?
Do you guys want to introduce yourself?
All right, well, then let's
I'm
bring
Chris,
somebody in
Republican.
who has been there for Donald Trump and helping him prepare.
I'm
for
Drew.
general-
I'm a Leo.
I'm Jordan. Hi.
And I'm Zach. I'm a host. What do you guys think is going to happen?
You can go first.
Sorry.
I'd rather not. I want to hear
Hey, go ahead.
Go. Someone, we're running out of time.
sweep.
Trump's gonna sweep her
Sweep.
Yeah, I think Kamala's going to eat a lot of her words because she lies all the time. So
all the time.
Where do you think
it's going to be kind of hard for her to.
Whose beer is this?
That's fine. You can leave it there.
Well, it's
Is
in
that
my
okay?
it's in my camera.
Oh, I didn't know. I don't know.
It's
I'm
right
sorry.
there.
What's going
Yeah,
on?
sorry about that.
So I think the media, though, how do you think it's going to?
She's going to have to remember all her lies, so I feel like that's going to really choke her up.
Lies or lines?
Lies.
Both.
You don't think she's going to be
Both,
fed lies?
technically.
Lies?
No. What do you call it?
She's got cue cards. She's fine.
No, she has no notes up there. Actually, they're not allowed.
Really?
Yep, not allowed.
You mean to tell me that Biden had no notes the last
No,
debate?
he probably had an earpiece or something. We just didn't see it.
How do you think the left wing media is going to swing it?
Well, they're gonna swing it to Kamala, of course.
How do you think they're going to do it? I just think you're ready for the whole.
They're just gonna edit things out of context like
Well,
they usually do.
well,
I'm glad his mic's going to be cut off, though, too, because I don't want him talking ahead of himself.
yeah,
you know?
exactly. The less he talks, the better.
His mic
Let
is
her
getting.
talk
I thought it
and
wasn't cut off. I thought they're keeping.
No, they are. They're doing
No,
the muted
they're
mic.
Was it switched last minute?
No,
It's not last minute. It's been
It's
like
literally-
I could have sworn I heard this morning they
no,
had
no,
open
they
it
mics.
is
said-
all the same rules like the CNN.
that. Which is
Everything?
good because
Yes.
you don't want to hear Kamala going, I'm speaking.
Yeah, she
Like she
wants
did.
her "I'm speaking"
Yeah.
moment just for commercials.
How do you think? How do you,
Like she did to, what's his face?
what do you guys think about the questions?
I think they're gonna be.
I think they're actually going to ask, like, Kamala some serious
Yeah.
questions. She
Yeah.
hasn't answered anything.
She's gonna
like,
fumble.
so
Well,
they're going to have to because, I mean, it's going to help them out in the long run
You think so?
because the viewership, they know it's high.
And the
They
biggest.
want to.
Oh, go on. Sorry.
No, they just want to look good, so they're going to ask some good things. I think actually, because everyone's looking for answers. Even the recent polls have said that a lot of people don't know who Kamala is, so people want to know who she is.
Do you-
I mean, most people already
do you-
know Trump. So.
Do you think they'll ask Trump more of rhetorical questions?
In the beginning, I'm sure, yeah.
Yeah.
But the one thing that Kamala hasn't talked about is policy. She's only talking about stuff
Right.
and pandering to
No
people.
one knows
Yeah,
that's
she
what I'm saying.
hasn't talked about a single piece of legislation, minus the fact she wants to give everyone $25,000 to buy a home now. But that's a whole nother
Yeah,
story. That's a whole
right.
nother train wreck. So
I think that with how bad Biden was slurring, Kamala's just as bad, just with her coherence.
Yeah.
yeah, because she's not
She
she's not
doesn't
smart at
she
all.
doesn't- she
The
doesn't-
word salads?
Well, she doesn't slur, but dude, it doesn't even make sense. It
Yeah,
just,
word
it just
salads.
oh,
You
it's
can
so
tell she's
bad.
trying to pull stuff out of her ass the whole time.
Oh yeah, it's been terrible. All right, I'm gonna skip ahead because, like I said, we're just a little bit behind, and you want.
Well, yeah, Shapiro put it good. It's like she talks. She didn't read the book, but she's trying to talk like she read the
Yep.
book. you
Yeah,
know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Kind of
I
She
thing.
like-
just did a little quick gist,
Yeah.
a little quick glance. That's it.
I
like
listen.
most-
So she just circles around like
Like most of us in high school.
yeah. Go to the
But
debate.
he actually
The ABC News presidential debate. Here now, David Muir and Lindsay Davis.
My political Super Bowl.
Do you think it's loud enough for you guys in the mic?
I'm David Muir.
Yeah, I think
Thank
it's
you
good.
for joining
good.
us for tonight's ABC News presidential debate. We want to welcome viewers watching on ABC and around the world tonight. Vice President Kamala Harris and President Donald Trump are just moments away from taking the stage in this unprecedented race for president.
And I'm Lindsay Davis. Tonight's meeting could be the most consequential event of their campaigns, with Election Day now less than 2 months away. For Vice President Kamala Harris, this is her first debate since President Biden withdrew from the race on July 21st. Of course, that decision followed his debate against President Donald Trump in June. Since then, this race has taken on an entirely new dynamic.
And that brings us to the rules of tonight's debate. 90 minutes with 2 commercial breaks. No topics or questions have been shared with the campaigns. The candidates will
Last
have
time
2
they didn't
minutes
get to
to
both
answer
commercial breaks,
questions,
did they?
and this is the clock.
They did.
That's
They
what
did.
they'll be seeing.
It just
2
took a
minutes
while
for
to get to the
rebuttals
first
Yeah,
one.
it did. It
and 1
took a
minute
very
for
long
follow-ups,
time.
clarifications, or responses.
But they only got the one,
microphones
though,
will
right?
only be turned on when it's their
What's that?
turn
They
to
only did
speak.
one, though,
No
right?
pre-written
No, they
notes
did two.
allowed.
Okay.
There
It
is
was
no
like- it was
audience
quick,
here tonight
though.
in this hall at the National Constitution Center. This is an intimate setting.
I think
for
they're going to
two
go to the
candidates
first
who
commercial
have
pretty
never
quick.
met.
They're going to go
President
pretty
Trump
quick, I
won the
think.
coin
If Kamala
toss. He
starts
chose to
fumbling.
deliver the final closing statement of the evening.
Well,
Vice
CNN actually
President
did a pretty
Harris
good job
selected the
last time, I
podium
thought.
They
to
did.
So let's now welcome
Shocker.
the candidates.
They did
to the
yeah, I
stage.
know.
Vice
They were
President
pretty
Kamala
fair.
Harris
Did they just say
and
coin
President
toss?
Donald
That's a
Trump.
real thing in the debate?
Yes. Yes.
Really?
There you go.
It's good enough for football. It's good enough for America.
Da-da-da-da-da.
Kamala Harris. Let's have a good debate. Thank you.
What did she say?
She said, let's have a
Welcome
good
to you
debate.
both.
He's like,
It's
let's have
wonderful
fun.
to have you. It's an honor to have you both here tonight.
Good evening. We are looking forward to a spirited and thoughtful debate.
So let's get started.
Oh, she does
I want to
look drunk
begin
so
tonight
far.
with the issue that voters repeatedly say is their number one issue, and that is the economy and the cost of living in this country. Vice President Harris, you and President Trump were elected 4 years ago, and your opponent on the stage here tonight often asks his supporters, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? When it comes to the economy, do you believe Americans are better off than they were 4 years ago?
So I was raised
question.
as a middle-class kid. And
Here
I
we
am
go.
actually the only person on this stage who has a plan that is about lifting up the middle class and working people of America. I believe in the ambition, the aspirations, the dreams of the American people. And that is why I imagine and have actually a plan to build what
Look
I
at
call
Trump,
an
dude.
opportunity economy. Because here's the thing.
a good
We
poker
know
face.
that we have a shortage of homes and housing. And the cost of housing is too expensive for far too many people. We know that young families need support to raise their children, and I intend on extending a tax cut for those families of $6,000, which is the largest child tax credit that we have given in a long time, so that those young families can afford to buy a crib, buy a car seat, buy clothes for their children. My passion, one of them, is small businesses. My mother raised my sister and me, but there was a woman who helped raise us. We call her our second mother. She was a small business owner. I love our small businesses. My plan is to give a $50,000 tax deduction to start up small businesses, knowing they are part of the backbone of America's economy. My opponent, on the other hand, his plan is to do what he has done before, which is to provide a tax cut for billionaires and big corporations, which will result in $5 trillion to America's deficit. My opponent has a plan that I call the Trump sales tax, which would be a 20% tax on everyday goods that you rely on to get through the month. Economists have said that Trump sales tax would actually result for middle-class families in about $4,000 more a year because of his policies and his ideas about what should be the backs of middle-class people paying for tax cuts for billionaires.
President Trump, I'll give you 2 minutes.
First of all, I have no sales tax. That's an incorrect statement. She knows that. We're doing tariffs on other countries. Other countries are going to finally, after 75 years, pay us back for all that we've done for the world. And the tariff will be substantial in some cases. I took in billions and billions of dollars, as you know, from China. In fact, they never took the tariff off because there was so much money they can't. It would totally destroy everything that they've set out to do. They're taking in billions of dollars from China and other places. They've left the tariffs on. When I had it, I had tariffs, and yet I had no inflation. Look, we've had a terrible economy because inflation which is really known as a country buster. It breaks up countries. We have inflation like very few people have ever seen before, probably the worst in our nation's history. We were at 21%, but that's being generous because many things are 50, 60, 70, and 80% higher than they were just a few years ago. This has been a disaster for people, for the middle class, but for every class. On top of that, we have millions of people pouring into our country from prisons and jails, from mental institutions and insane asylums, and they're coming in and they're taking jobs that are occupied right now by African Americans and Hispanics, and also unions. Unions are going to be affected very soon. And you see what's happening. You see what's happening with towns throughout the United States. You look at Springfield, Ohio. You look at Aurora in Colorado. They are taking over the towns. They're taking over buildings. They're going in violently. These are the people that Xi and Biden led into our country, and they're destroying our country. They're dangerous. They're at the highest level of criminality. And we
Why
have
is
to
she
get 'em out.
smirking?
We have
She's
to get 'em
writing
out
stuff
fast.
down.
I created one of the greatest economies in the history of our country. I'll do it again and even better.
We are going to get to immigration and border security during this debate, but I would like to let Vice President Harris respond on the economy here.
Well, I would love to. Let's talk about what Donald Trump left us. Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment since the Great Depression. Donald Trump left us
because of
the
COVID.
worst
It's because of COVID. It's so dumb.
epidemic in a century.
This is all they
Donald
got,
Trump
so
left us
they're grabbing on
the
the
worst
shoestring
attack on
about
our
it.
democracy since the Civil War. And what we have done is clean
I
up
don't know about
Donald
that.
Trump's mess.
don't
What we
think that's a
have
true
done and what
statement.
I
No,
intend
she's
to do
lying.
is build on what we know are the aspirations and the hopes of the American people. But I'm going to tell you all in this debate tonight, you're going to hear from the same old tired playbook a bunch of lies,
Yeah, you're not
grievances,
lying.
and name calling. What you're going to hear tonight is a detailed
Can you
and dangerous
move my
plan
camera a little
called
bit this
Project
way?
2025
This
that
way.
the former president
Keep
intends
going.
on implementing if he were elected again. I believe very strongly that the American people want a president who understands the importance of bringing us together, knowing we have so much more in common than what separates us. And I pledge to you to be a president for all Americans.
President Trump will give you a minute here to respond.
Number one, I have nothing to do, as you know, and as she knows better than anyone, I have nothing to do with Project 2025. That's out there. I haven't read it. I don't want to read it purposely. I'm not going to read it. This was a group of people that got together. They came up with some ideas, I guess some good, some bad, but it makes no difference. I have nothing to do. Everybody knows I'm an open book. Everybody knows what I'm going to do. Cut taxes very substantially and create a great economy like I did before. We had the greatest economy. We got hit with a pandemic. And the
She
pandemic
hates that
was
she can't interrupt
not
him.
since 1917, where 100 million people died, has there been anything like it. We did a phenomenal job with the pandemic. We handed them over a country where the economy and where the stock market was higher than it was before the pandemic came in. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. We made ventilators for the entire world. We got gowns, we got masks, we did things that nobody thought possible. And people give me credit for rebuilding the military. They give me credit for a lot of things, but not enough credit for the great job we did with the pandemic. But the only jobs they got were bounce back jobs. These were jobs bounced back, and it bounced back and it went to their benefit. But I was the one that created them. They know it, and so does everybody else.
Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond.
So Donald Trump has no plan for you. And when you look at his economic plan, it's all about tax breaks for the richest people. I am offering what I describe as an opportunity economy.
As I describe as an
The best
opportunity.
economists in our country, if not the world, have reviewed our relative plans for the
She's
future
so
of
full of
America.
shit.
What Goldman Sachs has said is that Donald Trump's plan would make the economy worse. Mine would strengthen the economy.
Ooh, a big
what
Democrat
the Wharton
donor.
School
Ooh,
has said is
shocking.
Donald Trump's plan would actually explode the deficit. 16 Nobel laureates have described his economic plan as something that would
Sure, they're all
increase
Democrats,
inflation and by the middle of next year would invite a recession.
16's a big
You
number
just
for
have
her.
to look at where we are and where we stand on the issues. And I'd invite you to know Trump actually has no plan for you because he is more interested in defending himself than he is in looking out for you.
It's just a soundbite. They gave her that to say. Look, I went to the Wharton School of Finance.
What'd he say?
He said
Many
it's
of
just a
those professors,
soundbite
the
they gave
top
her to say.
professors, think my plan is a brilliant plan. It's a great plan. It's a plan that's going to bring up our
She's
worth,
looking
our
up-
value
she's
as
starting
a
to look a
country.
little
It's gonna make
freaked
people
out
want
there
to
already.
be
She's so
able to
mad
go
right
and
now.
work.
She's freaking out.
She sounded
I'm
nervous.
not saying. I'm
She
not
sounded nervous to begin
Good,
with.
solid
Well, yeah, she's
hold on.
fed all her
for our
info.
for our country. And just
She's
to
like,
finish off,
"This wasn't part of my script."
She doesn't have a plan. She
I'm saying she
copied
start not
Biden's
saying
plan, and it's like 4
not freak out like angry. I'm saying like freak out like
run spot run.
Like, oh shit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's losing them.
Sentences that are just, oh, we'll try and lower taxes. She doesn't
Yeah,
have a
she
plan.
doesn't
Take
have a
look
plan.
at
She
her
never
plan.
explains
doesn't
anything.
have a
She just
plan.
says stuff.
Mr. President, I do want to drill down on something you both brought up. The Vice President brought up your tariffs. You responded, and let's drill down on this because your plan is what she calls is essentially a national sales tax. Your proposal calls for tariffs, as you pointed out here, on foreign imports across the board. You recently said that you might double your plan, imposing tariffs up to 20% on goods coming into this country. As you know, many economists say that with tariffs at that level, costs are then passed on to the consumer. Vice President Harris has argued it'll mean higher prices on gas, food, clothing, medication, arguing it costs the typical family nearly $4,000 a year. Do you believe Americans can afford higher prices because of tariffs?
They're not going to have higher prices. What's going to have and who's going to have higher prices is China and all of the countries that have been ripping us off for years. I was the only president ever. China was paying us hundreds of billions of dollars, and so were other countries. And, you know, if she doesn't like them, they should have gone out and they should have immediately cut the tariffs. But those tariffs are there 3.5 years now under their administration. We are going to take in billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars. I had no inflation, virtually no inflation. They had the highest inflation perhaps in the history of our country because I've never seen a worse period of time. People can't go out and buy cereal or bacon or eggs or anything else. The people of our country
It's gone too far when I lost my
absolutely
bacon.
dying with what they've done. They've destroyed the economy. And all you have to do is look at a poll. The polls say 80 and 85 and even 90% that the Trump economy was great, that their economy was terrible.
Vice President Harris, I do want to ask for your response, and you heard what the president said there, because the Biden administration did keep a number of the Trump tariffs in place. So how do you respond?
Well, let's be clear that the Trump administration resulted in a trade deficit, one of the highest we've ever seen in the history of America. He invited trade wars. You want to talk about his deal with China? What he ended up doing is under Donald Trump's presidency, he ended up selling American chips to China to help them improve and modernize their military, basically sold us out. When a policy about China should be in making sure the United States of America wins the competition for the 21st century, which means focusing on the details of what that requires, focusing on relationships with our allies, focusing on investing in American-based technology so that we win the race on AI, on quantum computing, focusing on what we need to do to support America's workforce so that we don't end up having on the short end of the stick in terms of workers' rights. But what Donald Trump did, let's talk about this, with COVID, is he actually thanked President Xi for what he did during COVID. Look at his tweet. Thank you, President Xi, exclamation point, when we know that Xi was responsible for lacking and not giving us transparency.
But if you
about
said this
the
back in
origins
2020,
of
you were a
COVID.
conspiracy
President Trump
theorist.
will let you
What?
First of all,
Right.
they bought
Get
their
the-
chips from Taiwan. We hardly make chips anymore because of philosophies like they have and policies like they have. I don't say her because she has no policy.
Close it.
Everything
They turn up her
that
mic.
She believed 3 years ago and 4 years ago is out the window. She's going to my philosophy now. In fact, I was going to send her a MAGA hat.
Oh
She
my!
got elected, she changed it. And it will
Dude,
be
that was
the end
awesome.
of our country. She's a Marxist. Everybody knows
Yep.
she's a Marxist. Her
Communist.
father's a Marxist professor in economics, and he taught her well. But when you look at what she's done to our country, and when you look at these millions and millions of people that are pouring into our
Millions
country
and
monthly,
millions.
where it's, I
That's the
believe,
face of
21
someone that
million
can't control
people,
their
not the
emotions.
15 that people say.
Look
And
at
I
her.
think it's a lot higher than the 21. That's bigger than New York State pouring in. And just look at what they're doing to our country. They're criminals. Many of these people coming in are criminals. And
I don't
that's
like how he
bad
always
for
goes to
our economy,
immigration
too.
when
You know, you
it's like a
mentioned
separate
before, we'll
thing
talk
they're gonna
about
talk about.
immigration
It
later.
is a big
Well,
problem.
bad
Oh, it is,
immigration
I
the
agree.
But
worst
look, it's
thing that can
affecting the
happen to
economy.
our
That's why he keeps
economy.
going to
It is.
it.
Yeah, no, there's
They have-
reasons. I get
and
it, but
she has
They're going to talk
destroy
about it later.
our
That's why he
country
does
with
it a lot.
policy
But it is a big
that's
deal, yeah.
insane. Almost policy that
She
you
does the
say
same thing.
If they're
they
going
have
to
to hate our
continuously
country.
throw the
President
same
Trump.
shit at him, why can't he do
Yeah,
it?
no, I'm not saying he
Hold on,
shouldn't.
hold on.
Abortion. President Trump, you've often touted that you were able to kill Roe v. Wade. Last year, you said that you were proud to be the most pro-life president in American history. Then last month, you said that your administration would be great for women and their reproductive rights. In your home state of Florida, you surprised many with regard to your 6-week abortion ban because you initially had said that it was too short. And you said, quote, I'm going to be voting that we need more than 6 weeks. But then the very next day, you reversed course and said you would vote to support the 6-week ban. Vice President Harris says that women shouldn't trust you on the issue of abortion because you've changed your position so many times. Therefore, why should they trust you?
Well, the reason I'm doing that vote is because the plan is, as you know, the vote is, they have abortion in the 9th month. They even have, and you can look at the governor of West Virginia, the previous governor of West Virginia, not the current governor, is doing an excellent job, but the governor before, he said the baby will be born and we will decide what to do with the baby. In other words, we'll execute the baby. And that's why I did that, because that predominates, because they're radical. The Democrats are radical in that. And her vice presidential pick, which I think was a horrible pick, by the way, for our country, because he is really out of it. But her vice presidential pick says abortion in the 9th month is absolutely fine. He also says execution after birth. It's execution, no longer abortion, because the baby is born, is okay. And that's not okay with me, hence the vote. But what I did is something for 52 years. They've been trying to get Roe v. Wade into the states. And through the genius and heart and strength of 6 Supreme Court justices, we were able to do that. Now, I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother. I believe strongly in it. Ronald Reagan did also. 85% of Republicans do. Exceptions. Very important. But we were able to get it, and now states are voting on it. And for the first time, you're going to see, look, this is an issue that's torn our country apart for 52 years. Every legal scholar, every Democrat, every Republican, liberal, conservative, they all wanted this issue to be brought back to the states where the people could vote. And that's what happened. Now, Ohio, the vote was somewhat liberal. Kansas, the vote was somewhat liberal, much more liberal than people would have thought. But each individual state is voting. It's the vote of the people now. It's not tied up in the federal government. I did a great service in doing it. It took courage to do it. And the Supreme Court had great courage in doing it. And I give tremendous credit to those 6 justices.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born. Madam Vice President, I want to get your response to President Trump.
ABC
Well, as I
on
said,
Tom
you're going to hear a
Moss
bunch of lies, and that's not actually a surprising fact.
They studied the CNN.
Let's understand how we
interview.
got here.
So they're trying to
Donald
back her
Trump
up more.
hand-selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade. And they did exactly as he intended. And now in over 20 states, there are Trump abortion bans, which make it criminal for a doctor or nurse to provide health care. In one state, it provides prison for life. Trump abortion bans that make no exception even for rape and incest, which understand what that means.
Yeah, you're full
A
shit.
survivor of a crime,
said
a
it.
violation to their body,
Trying to get the
does
emotion
not
out of
have the
people.
right to make a
No,
decision
it's just
about
trying
what
to lie.
happens
Commercial
to their
clip.
body next. That is immoral. And one does not have to
she's definitely trying to
abandon their
appeal
faith
with
or
emotions.
deeply held
Yeah.
beliefs to agree.
That's
the
all they-
government
all
and
they-
Donald Trump certainly should not be telling a woman what to do with her body. I have talked with women around our country.
But you felt the
wanna
need to
talk
tell
about this is what
every
people
other American
wanted?
back in 2020 what to do with their
Pregnant
body.
women who want
with
to
the
carry
vaccines,
a
so.
pregnancy to term, suffering from a miscarriage, being denied care in an emergency room because the healthcare providers are afraid they might go to jail, and she's bleeding out in a car in the parking lot.
Just
She
like
didn't
people
want
got
that.
fired
Her
for refusing the
husband didn't want
vaccine
that.
back in 2020.
A 12 or 13-year-old
so
survivor
full of
of
shit.
incest being forced to carry a pregnancy to term? They don't want that. And I pledge to you, when Congress passes a bill
Commercial clip.
to put back in place the protections of Roe v. Wade, as President of the United States, I will proudly sign it into law. But understand,
Yeah, you're never gonna
if
get that
Donald
chance.
Trump were to be reelected, he will sign a national abortion ban. Understand, in his Project 2025, there would be a national
He literally just said he doesn't
that would
endorse
be
it.
monitoring
Don't say
your
that.
pregnancies, your miscarriages. I think the American people believe that certain freedoms, in particular the freedom to make decisions about one's own body, should not be made by the government.
Thank you, Vice President Harris.
Well, there she goes again. It's a lie. I'm not signing a ban, and there's no reason to sign a ban because we've gotten what everybody wanted. Democrats, Republicans, and everybody else, and every legal scholar wanted it to be brought back into the states. And the states are voting. And it may take a little time, but for 52 years, this issue has torn our country apart. And they've wanted it back in the states. And I did something that nobody thought was possible. The states are now voting. What she says is an absolute lie. And as far as the abortion ban, no, I'm not in favor of abortion ban, but it doesn't matter because this issue has now been taken over by the states.
Would you veto a national abortion ban if it came
Well,
to
I
your
won't
desk?
have to because, again, two things. Number one, she said she'll go back to Congress. She'll never get the vote. It's impossible for her to get the vote, especially now with the 50-50 and essentially 50-50 in both Senate and the House. She's not going to get the vote. She can't get the vote. She won't even come close to it. So it's just talk. You know what it reminds me of? When they said they're going to get student loans terminated, and it ended up being a total catastrophe. The student loans, and then her, I think probably her boss, if you call him a boss, he spends all his time on the beach. Look, her boss went out and said, we'll do it again. We'll do it a different way. And he went out, got rejected again by the Supreme Court. So all these students got taunted with this whole thing about this whole idea. And how unfair that would have been, part of the reason they lost, to the millions and millions of people that had to pay off their student loans. They didn't get it for free. But they were saying it's the same way that they talked about that they talk about abortion.
But if I could just get a yes or no, because your running mate, J.D. Vance, has said that you would veto it if it did come to your desk.
Well, I didn't discuss it with J.D. In all fairness, J.D., and I don't mind if he has a certain view, but I think he was speaking for me, but I really didn't. Look, we don't have to discuss it because she'd never be able to get it, just like she couldn't get student loans. They couldn't get student loans. They didn't even come close to getting student loans. They taunted young people and a lot of other people that had loans. They can never get this approved. So it doesn't matter what she says about going to Congress.
I
Well,
can
wonderful.
attest
Let's
to
go to
that. I was
Congress,
one of
do it.
them.
But the fact is that for years they wanted to get it out of Congress and
What's
out
that?
of the federal government.
said I can
and we
attest to
did
that. I was
something that
one of them.
everybody said couldn't be done. And now you have a vote of the people on abortion.
Vice President Harris, I want to give you your time to respond, but I do want to ask, would you support any restrictions on a woman's right to an abortion?
I absolutely support reinstating the protections of Roe v. Wade. And as you rightly mentioned, nowhere in America is a woman carrying a pregnancy to term and asking for an abortion. That is not happening. It's insulting to the women of America. And understand what has been happening under Donald Trump's abortion bans. Couples who pray and dream of having a family are being denied IVF treatments. What is happening in our country? Working
Chris,
people,
relax, dear
working
Dad.
women who are working
What
one or
is,
two
uh,
jobs,
What is
who
that
can
acronym
barely
she just said?
afford
IVF?
childcare as it is, have to travel to
in
another
vitro, in
state
vitro fertilization.
to get on a
It
plane
helps
sitting
women
next to
more-
strangers,
become more fertile and
to
not
go
have
and get
Well,
the
that-
health care
miscarriages.
she needs. Barely can afford to do it, and what you are putting her through is unconscionable. And the people of America have not, the majority of Americans believe in a woman's right to make decisions about
He's
her own
very
body.
good with keeping his mouth
and
shut.
that is why in every
Helping
state where this issue has been on the ballot, in red and blue states both, the people of America have voted for freedom.
Vice President Harris,
Excuse me, I
thank
have
you.
to respond. Another lie. It's another lie.
You're gonna see why
I
I
have
just
been a
acted like
leader
that.
on IVF, which is fertilization. The IVF, I have been a leader. In fact, when they got a very negative decision on IVF from the Alabama courts, I saw the people of Alabama and the legislature 2 days later voted it in. I've been a leader on it. They know that, and everybody else knows it. I have been a leader on fertilization, IVF. And the other thing, you should ask will she allow abortion in the 8th month, 9th month, 7th month?
Come on.
Okay, would you do that? Why don't you ask her
Why-
that question?
why don't you answer
That's the
the question?
problem.
Would you
because
veto?
under Roe v.
Answer
Wade,
the question,
you
would you
could,
veto?
you could
Why
do
is her mic not
abortions
muted?
in the
I was
7th
thinking the
month,
same
the
thing.
8th month, the 9th
That's
month,
not true.
and probably after birth.
Here
Just
we go.
look at the governor, former governor of Virginia. The governor of Virginia said we put the baby aside and then we determine what we want to do with the baby.
President Trump, thank you.
We're going to turn now to immigration and
Yes,
border
don't worry about
security.
the
We know
question.
it's an issue that's
Pay
important to
attention to see if
Republicans,
they mute his
Democrats,
mic,
voters
too.
across
Yep.
the board in this country. Vice President Harris, you were tasked by President Biden with getting to the root causes of migration from Central America. We know that illegal border crossings
Trump's
reached
pumped.
a record high in the Biden administration. This past June, President Biden imposed tough new asylum restrictions. We know the numbers since then have dropped significantly. But my question to you tonight is, why did the administration wait until 6 months before the election to act? And would you have done anything differently from President Biden on this?
So I'm the only person on this stage who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations for the trafficking of guns, drugs, and human beings. And let me say that the United States Congress, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Senate, came up with a border security bill which I supported. And that bill would have put 1,500 more border agents on the border to help those folks who are working there right now overtime trying to do their job.
It's not nearly enough.
It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States. I know there are so many families watching tonight who have been personally affected by the surge of fentanyl in our country. That bill would have put more resources to allow us to prosecute transnational criminal organizations for trafficking in guns, drugs, and human beings. But you know what happened to that bill? Donald Trump got on the phone, called up some folks in Congress, and said, kill the bill. And you know why? Because he'd prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And understand,
Democrats
this
do.
comes at a time
That's what all Democrats
where
do.
the people
Yeah, he's a
of
civilian.
our
He has
country
no power.
actually need a leader who
blame
engages
him
in
for that.
solutions, who actually addresses the problems at hand. But what we have in the former president is someone who would prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And I'll tell you something, he's going to talk about immigration a lot tonight, even when it's not the subject that is being raised. And I'm going to actually do something really unusual, and I'm going to invite you to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies, because it's a really interesting thing to watch. You will see during the course of his rallies, he talks about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter. He will talk about
Is this her
windmills cause
curveball?
cancer. And what you will also notice is that people start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom.
He knows it
And
pisses
I will
him
tell
off.
you,
I
the
feel like
one
that's
thing
why
you
they're
will
poking
not
at
hear
him.
him talk about
absolutely.
is
He
you.
always gets pissed off
You
at
will not
rallies.
hear him
So
talk
he's
about
coping
your
with their
needs,
own
your
rallies.
dreams, and
Don't
your
get anybody.
and your desires.
There we go.
And I'll
Let's
tell
just
you,
talk
I
about
believe
immigration.
you
Don't talk about the
deserve
rallies.
A president who actually puts you first, and I pledge
First thing
to
he
you
talks about is
that
the
I
rallies,
will.
guaranteed.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, on that point, I want to get your response.
Well, I would like to respond.
Let me just ask, though, why did you try to kill that bill, and successfully so? That would have put thousands of additional agents and officers on the border.
First, let me respond as to the
Please.
rallies. She said people start leaving. People don't go to her rallies. There's no reason to go.
Told you.
And
First
the
thing.
people that do go, she's bussing them in and paying them to be there and then showing them in a different light. So she can't talk about that. People don't leave my rallies. We have the biggest rallies, the most incredible
right,
rallies in the
immigration,
history of
go.
politics. That's because people want to take their country
I think
back.
she did it on purpose.
Our country is being
I know,
lost.
I'm
We're a
surprised you
failing
said
nation.
That's their curveball
and it
for the
happened
night.
3.5
It's a
years ago.
manipulation tactic.
And what's going on here, you're going to end up in
100%.
Right.
World War III, just to go into another subject. What they have done to our country by allowing these millions and millions of people to come into our country, and look at what's happening to the towns all over the United States. And a lot of towns don't want to talk. It's not going to be Aurora or Springfield. A lot of towns don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening
Did
in
you
our
hear that?
country.
I heard it was
And
fake.
it's a
Did you hear it was
shame.
fake or what?
As far as
About that? I haven't heard about
rallies
that at
are
all.
concerned,
Mix.
as far as the reason they go is they like what I say. They want to bring our country back. They want to make America great again. It's a very simple phrase, make America great again. She's destroying this country. And if she becomes president, this country doesn't have a chance of success. Not only success, we'll end up being Venezuela on steroids.
I just want to clarify here. You bring up Springfield, Ohio, and ABC News did reach out to the city manager there. He told us there have been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the immigrant community.
Well, I've seen people on television.
Let me just say here, this is
the people on television say my dog was taken and used for food. So maybe he said that, and maybe that's a good thing to say for a city manager.
I'm not taking this from
but
television.
The people
I'm
on
taking it from
television
the city
saying
manager.
their dog was eaten by the people that went
there.
there.
The city manager wants them to look at
Springfield
that?
city manager says there's no evidence of that. Vice President
find
Harris,
out.
I'll let you respond to the rest of what you've heard.
You can
You
see
think
how
it's conspiracy? You
rigorous
think it's conspiracy?
Well, they're fact checking Donald Trump.
you know,
they don't fact check
I know.
Kamala.
I think one of the reasons
Aurora,
why in this
Colorado
election,
might be.
I actually
Which I'm
have
fine with
the
fact checks, but
endorsement
Make it
of
fair.
200
Yeah.
Republicans
She's lying about stuff.
who have formerly
And she's
worked
scared to
with
go on the
President
Fox News
Bush,
debate.
Mitt Romney,
Yeah.
and John
Wonder why.
McCain, including the endorsement of former Vice President Dick Cheney and Congress member Liz Cheney. And if you want to really know the inside track on who the former president is, if he didn't make it clear already, just ask people who have worked with him. His former chief of staff, a 4-star general, has said he has contempt for the Constitution of the United States. His former national security advisor has said he is dangerous and unfit. His former Secretary of Defense has said the nation, the republic, would never survive another Trump term.
I think she's doing better than I expected, but I think it's because
this kind of
the aid of
rhetoric,
They're rigging
when
it.
the issues that affect the American people are not being addressed, I think the choice is clear in this election.
President Trump, I'll give you a quick minute to respond here.
Thank you, because when I hear that, see, I'm a different kind of a person. I fired most of those people. Not so graciously. They did bad things or a bad job. I fired them. They never fired one person. They didn't fire anybody having to do with Afghanistan and the Taliban and the 13 people whose were just killed, viciously and violently killed. And I got to know the parents and the family. They didn't fire. They should have fired all those generals, all those top people, because that was one of the most incompetently handled situations anybody has ever seen. So when somebody does a bad job, I fire him. And you take a guy like Esper. He was no good. I fired him. So he writes a book. Another one writes a book. Because with me, they can write books. With nobody else can they. But they have done such a poor job. And they never fire anybody. Look at the economy. Look at the inflation. They didn't fire any of their economists. They have the same people. That's a good way not to have books written about you. But just to finish, I got more votes than any Republican in history by far. In fact, I got more votes than any sitting president in history by far.
Let me continue on immigration. It was what you wanted to talk about
I think
earlier.
that was kind
so let's
of
get back to your
an irrelevant thing to
deportation,
say about the books. It
proposal
doesn't really boost
that
his
the vice
argument.
president
It just
has
kind of
reacted
boosts his
to
ego.
as
That
well.
was kind of a,
President Trump, you call this the largest domestic deportation
Wait, I just wanna see
operation
my-
in the
my
history
battery.
of our country.
We're
You
good.
say you would use the
I'll make sure
National
my
Guard.
laptop
You say if
battery's
things get
good.
out of control, you'd have no problem using the U.S.
With local
military.
police, yes.
You also said you would use local police. How would you deport 11 million undocumented immigrants? I know you believe that number is much higher. Take us through this. What does this look like? Will authorities be going door to door in this country?
Yeah. It is much higher because of them. They allowed criminals, many, many millions of criminals. They allowed terrorists. They allowed
Millions.
common street criminals. They allowed people to come in, drug dealers, to come into our country. And they're now in the United States and told by their countries like Venezuela, don't ever come back or we're going to kill you. Do you know that crime in Venezuela and crime in countries all over the world is way down? You know why? Because they've taken their criminals off the street and they've given them to her to put into our country. And this will be one of the greatest mistakes in history for them to allow. And I think they probably did it because they think they're going to get votes, but it's not worth it because they're destroying the fabric of our country by what they've done. There's never been anything done like this at all. They've destroyed the fabric of our country. Millions of people let in, and all over the world, crime is down all over the world except here. Crime here is up and through the roof. Despite their fraudulent statements that they made, crime in this country is through the roof. And we have a new form of crime. It's called migrant crime. And it's happening at levels that nobody thought possible.
President Trump, as you know, the FBI says
Shush,
overall violent
dude.
crime is actually coming down in this country. But Vice
Excuse me,
President
the
Harris, I'll
FBI
give you
they were defrauding statements.
Here we go, dude.
They didn't include
You
the
see what
worst
I mean?
cities.
Well, I think they're trying to stir 'em
didn't
up.
include
Yeah.
the
That's what they're
cities
trying to
with the
do,
worst
right?
This is all
crime.
intentional.
It was a fraud. Just like their number of 818,000 jobs that they said they created turned out to be a fraud.
President Trump, thank you. I'll let you respond, Vice President Harris.
Well, I think this is so rich coming from someone who has been prosecuted for national
By your
security
administration.
crimes, economic crimes, election interference, has been found
need to hear it,
liable for sexual assault, and his next big court appearance is in November at his own criminal
Can you grab me one more
sentencing.
Smirnoff?
And let's
Thank you.
be clear where each
Huh?
person stands on the
Oh, shit,
issue
sorry.
of what is
you go.
important about respect for the rule
What
of
did he
law
say? I didn't even hear
and
him.
respect for law enforcement. The former vice president called for defunding federal law enforcement, 45,000 agents, get this, on the day after he was arraigned on 34 felony counts. So let's talk about what is important in this race. It is important that we move forward, that we turn the page on this same old tired rhetoric and address the needs of the American people, address what we need to do about the housing shortage, which I have a plan for, address what we must do to support our small businesses, address bringing down the price of groceries. But frankly, the American people are exhausted with this same old tired playbook.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
Excuse me. Every one of those cases was started by them against their political opponent. And I'm winning most of them, and I will win the rest on appeal. And you saw that with the decision that came down just recently from the Supreme Court. I'm winning most of them. But those are cases, it's called weaponization. Never happened in this country. They weaponized the Justice Department. Every
can
one
hear
of
a
those
lot.
cases
Oh.
was involved with the DOJ, from Atlanta and Fani Willis to the Attorney General of New York and the DA in New York. Every one of those cases. And then they say, oh, he's a criminal. They're the ones that made them go after me. By the way, Joe Biden was found essentially guilty on the documents case. And what happened in my documents case? They said, oh, that's the toughest of them all. A complete and total victory. 2 months ago, it was thrown out. It's weaponization, and they used it, and it's never happened in this country. They used it to try and win an election.
President
They're
Trump.
fake cases.
President Trump, thank you. A really quick response here, Vice President Harris, on this notion of weaponization of the Justice Department.
Well, let's talk about extreme and understand the context in which this election in 2024 is taking place. The United States Supreme Court recently ruled that the former president would essentially be immune from any misconduct if he were to enter the White House again. Understand, this is someone who has openly said he would terminate, I'm quoting, terminate the Constitution of the United States, that he would weaponize the Department of Justice against his political enemies. Someone who has openly expressed disdain for members of our military. Understand
she's definitely
what it would mean
paraphrasing.
if Donald Trump were
100%,
back in the White House with no guardrails. Because certainly we know now the court won't stop him. We know J.D. Vance is not going to stop him. It's up to the American people.
Vice President
stop
Harris,
him.
thank you.
Did you stop
Vice
Joe?
President Harris,
No.
in your last run for president,
She just said J.D.
This
Vance.
is the
Yeah, but
one
how
that
was she
weaponized,
paraphrasing?
Not me. She weaponized.
About the Constitution
I
and all
probably
that?
took a bullet to the head because of the things that they say about me.
Ooh.
They talk about democracy. I'm a threat to democracy. They're the threat to democracy
President
with a fake
Trump.
Russia
He saved that one.
investigation
We do have a lot to
that
get-
went nowhere.
We have a lot to get to. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president, you said you
Dude
wanted
was
to ban
almost assassinated. They're
fracking.
shutting
Now
him
you
up.
don't. You wanted mandatory government buyback programs for assault weapons. Now your campaign says you don't. You supported decriminalizing border crossings. Now you're taking a harder line. I know you say that your values have not changed. So then why have so many of your policy positions changed?
So
Finally,
my values
a
have
good
not
question.
changed, and I'm going to discuss every one of the, at least
told you
every
they
point
would
that
ask
she's
this kind of
made. But
stuff.
in particular, let's talk about fracking because we're here in Pennsylvania. I made that very clear in 2020. I will not ban fracking. I have not banned fracking as Vice President of the United States. And in fact, I was the tie-breaking vote on the Inflation Reduction Act, which opened new leases for fracking. My position is that we have got to invest in diverse sources of energy so we reduce our reliance on foreign oil. We have had the largest
Closing the
increase
pipeline
in
instantly?
domestic
Mhm.
oil
No kidding.
production in history because of an approach that recognizes that we cannot over-rely on foreign oil. As it relates to my values, let me tell you, I grew up a
Overline
middle-class
foreign oil,
kid
but close the
raised by a
pipeline, dude. That drives me
hardworking
nuts.
mother who worked and saved and was able to buy our first home when I was a teenager. The values I
Is that the
bring
first thing he
to
did
the
in
importance
office,
of
too, is
homeownership,
stop the
knowing
pipeline?
not
Yep,
everybody
first day,
got
day one.
handed
Executive order.
$400 million on a silver platter and then filed bankruptcy 6 times, is a value that I bring to my work to say we are going to
How about you talk
work
about
with
some
the private
policy
sector and home
instead of
builders
attacking 'em?
to increase 3 million homes, increase by 3 million homes by the end of my first term. My work that is related to having a friend when I was in high school who was sexually assaulted by her stepfather. And my focus then on protecting women and children from violent crime is based on a value that is deeply grounded in the importance of standing up for those who are most vulnerable. My work that is about protecting Social Security and Medicare is based on long-standing work that I have done, protecting seniors from scams. My values have not changed. And what is important is that there is a president who actually brings values and a perspective that is about lifting people up and not beating people down and name calling. The true measure of the leader is the leader who actually understands the strength is not in beating people down, it's in lifting people up. I intend to be that president.
President Trump, your
Well,
response?
first of all, I wasn't given $400 million. I wish I was. My father was a Brooklyn builder, Brooklyn, Queens, and a great father, and I learned a lot from him. But I was given a fraction of that, a tiny fraction, and I built it into many, many billions of dollars, many, many billions. And when people see it, they are even surprised. So we don't have to talk about that. Fracking, she's been against it for 12 years.
I'm just going to flex
Defund
real
the
quick.
police, she's been against that forever. She gave all that stuff up very wrongly, very horribly, and everybody's laughing at it, okay? They're all laughing at it. She gave up at least 12 and probably 14 or 15 different policies. Like, she was big on defund the police. In Minnesota, she went out, wait a minute, I'm talking now.
He's going to get fact checked
If you don't mind, please.
for no reason.
Does that sound familiar? She went out.
He stole her
The
line.
Mike
She went
Pence.
out in Minnesota and wanted to let criminals that killed people, that burned down Minneapolis, she went out and raised money to get them out of jail.
Yep.
She did things that nobody would ever
That's not
think
true,
of.
my
Now
ass.
she wants to do transgender operations on illegal aliens.
Yep,
that
they're
are
talking
in
about that in
prison.
CNN even.
This is
CNN,
a
CNN was even, I'm
radical
like, what the heck is
left
going
liberal
on?
that would do this. She wants to confiscate your guns, and she will never allow fracking in Pennsylvania. If she won the election, fracking in Pennsylvania will end on day
I
one.
want him to start
Just
tying her more to
finish one
Biden
thing,
right now
so
because he's not
important in my
talking about what they're going
opinion.
to do. Talk about what she's
So,
doing.
I got the
Well,
oil
they
business
successfully
going
lit
like
a
nobody
fire
has
under
ever
his
done
ass. If you
before.
haven't,
Oh, I know.
When
I've known
they
that was a
took
tactic.
over,
Yeah.
They got rid of it, started
Fire
getting rid of it,
yeah.
and the prices
yeah, I
were
agree
going
completely.
up
The dynamic
roof.
has changed.
They immediately let these
Well,
guys go
these
to where they were.
these
I would have been
they're
commentators
five
aren't helping.
times,
Yeah,
4
they're-
times, 5 times higher because you're talking about 3.5 years ago. They got it up to where I was because they had no choice because the prices of energy were quadrupling and doubling. You saw what happened to gasoline. So they said, let's go back to Trump. But if she won the election, the day after that election, they'll go
needs
back
to
to destroying our country. And
why-
oil will be dead. Fossil fuel will be
Why
dead.
have you
We'll
not
go
done
back to
anything?
windmills
Why have you not
and
done
we'll go
anything?
back
Why have you
to
not done anything?
solar,
That's what he
where
needs to
they
start doing.
Need a whole
Why aren't you
desert
doing
to
anything?
get some
They throw 'em
energy
off.
to come out of. You ever see a solar plant? By the way, I'm a big fan of solar. But they take
Call timeout.
400,
President
500
Trump.
It doesn't help it's like
acres
3-on-1
of
right
desert
now.
President
soil.
Trump, we have a
These
lot
are
of
not good
issues
things
that we
for the
have to get
environment
to.
that
We're
she
out of time.
understands.
Thank you.
Lindsay, thank you. We have an election in just 56 days. And I want to talk about the peaceful transfer of power, which, of course, we all know is a cornerstone of our democracy and the role of
someone
a
not even
president,
elected
in a moment of crisis.
Cue the January
Mr. President,
6th,
on January
3, 2,
6th,
1.
you told your supporters to march to the Capitol. You said you would be right there with them. The country and the world saw what played out at the Capitol that day.
Same
The
thing. Here we go
officers
again.
Coming under attack.
Slow
Aides
to
and
deny the
witnesses, you
National
watched it
Guard.
unfold
Like, what do
on
you want them to
television
do?
off the Oval Office. You did send out tweets, but it was more than 2 hours before you sent out that video message telling your supporters to go home. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day?
You just said a thing that isn't covered. Peacefully and patriotically, I said during my speech, not later on. peacefully
He
and
did.
patriotically.
I watched it live.
And nobody on the other side was killed. Ashley Babbitt was shot by an out-of-control police officer that should have never, ever shot her. It's a disgrace. But we didn't do this group of people that have been treated so badly. I ask, what about all the people that are pouring into our country and killing people that she allowed to pour in? She was the border czar. Remember that. She was the border czar. She doesn't want to be called the border czar because she's embarrassed by the border. In fact, she said at the beginning, oh, I'm surprised you're not talking about the border yet. That's because she knows what a bad job they've done. What about those people? When are they going to be prosecuted? When are these people from countries all over the world, not just South America, they're coming in from all over the world, David, all over the world.
What?
And crime
I'm just
rates
not liking
are
his
down
act
all
right
over
now.
the world because
That's
of
why I
it.
tell you
But
this
when are
immigration
those-
thing
David,
keeps going
when
back.
are those
Well,
people
but
gonna
he
be
needs to hit it
prosecuted?
when it's
When are
hot.
the people that
Yeah.
burned down Minneapolis going to be prosecuted?
He got thrown
Or in
out.
Seattle.
Let's hope for his
They went
commercial
into
breaks in.
Seattle. They took over a big percentage of the city of
I
Seattle.
think it's
When are those
coming.
people going to be prosecuted?
I was
But
going to
let me
say,
just
after
ask-
You might
commercial
ask
break,
her
I
that
think he's going to
You
level
were the
out.
president. You were watching it unfold on television. It's a very simple question as we move forward toward another election. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day?
You just asked him.
Yes, sir.
that.
I had nothing to do with that other than they asked me to
Debating him.
make a speech. I showed up for a speech. I said,
big
I think it's
question.
going to be big. I went to Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington, D.C., and the mayor put it back in writing, as you know. I said, this is going to be a very big rally or whatever you want to call it. And again, it wasn't done by me. It was done by others. I said, I'd like to give you 10,000 National Guard or soldiers. They rejected me. Nancy Pelosi rejected me. It was just 2 weeks ago. Her daughter has a tape of her saying she is fully responsible for what happened. They want to get rid of that tape. It would have never happened if Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington did their jobs. I wasn't responsible for security. Nancy Pelosi was responsible. She didn't do her job.
The question was about you as president, not about former Speaker Pelosi, but I do want Vice President Harris to respond here.
Of course you do.
I was at the Capitol
That's
on January
directly
6th.
correlated.
I was
you need extra
the
people
vice
to.
president-elect. I was
Oh,
also
my.
an acting senator. I was there. And on that day, the President of the United States incited a violent mob to attack our nation's capital,
Found out
to
guilty.
desecrate our nation's capital. On that day, 140 law enforcement officers were injured, and some died.
Like you
And
could.
understand, the former
They didn't die on
president
that
has
day.
been indicted
It had
and
nothing to do.
impeached
So it wasn't that day,
for
first of all.
exactly that reason.
It had to do with.
But
And
this
let's
is
not
an
forget her
isolated
defund the police
situation.
rhetoric as
Let's
well back in
remember
2020. Not to mention
Yep.
she let out a bunch of
where
violent criminals that
there
were
was
burning
a
down
mob
cities.
of
Let's
people
not forget
carrying
about that.
tiki torches, spewing anti-Semitic hate. And what did the president then at the time say? There were fine people on each side. Let's remember that when it came to the Proud Boys, a militia,
I got debunked too. So
the president said, the former president said, stand back.
If I was
and
him right now,
stand by.
let's talk about. Let's remember.
So for
let's
everyone
remember
watching who remembers
what you did the last
January
4
6th
years. That's
was,
all.
exactly.
I was going to say
I don't know why he's
I
not
say
doing that.
we
she
don't have to
uses
go back.
she uses the word desecrate
Let's
the
not go back. We're
Capitol.
not going
Weren't they
back.
the same
It's
people
time
that
to
let
turn the
naked
page.
uh,
And if that
people
wasn't
on the White
too
House?
far
Yeah,
for
on the
you,
White
well,
House
there is a
lawn.
place
So what do you mean?
in
No,
Desecrate?
not only the
our
White House
campaign
lawn, but
for
on
you
the Senate floor
to
as well.
Yeah. So what do you mean desecrate the
for
Capitol?
country, to stand for our democracy, to stand for rule of law, and to end the chaos, and to end the approach that is about attacking the foundations of our democracy because you don't like the outcome. And be clear on that point. Donald Trump, the candidate, has said in this election there will be a bloodbath if this and the
Oh,
outcome
here
of
it
this
goes.
election is not to his liking. Let's turn the page on this. Let's not go back. Let's chart a course for the future
Twisting of the words.
and not
right
go
back at it.
backwards to the past.
Let me just follow up here.
It was a different term, and it was a term that related to energy because they have destroyed our energy business. That was where bloodbath was. Also, on Charlottesville, that story has been, as you would say, debunked.
It's so
you.
Laura
annoying. dude.
Ingram, Sean Hannity, Jesse, all of these
You
people.
obviously said this
they
like 3 or
covered
4
it. If they go an extra sentence, they will see it was perfect. It was debunked in almost every newspaper, but they still bring it up, just like they bring 2025 up. They bring all of this stuff up. I ask you this. You talk about the Capitol. Why are we allowing these millions of people to come through on the southern border? How come she's not doing anything?
All right,
And
stop
I'll tell
talking
you
about
what
the
I would
border.
do.
Stop
And I
talking
would
about
be
the
very
border.
This is
Get
why I
away
said
from
it
it.
early. I hear
I
it
would
all
say
the
we would
time. I
both
listen to
leave
him
this
You're going
so
to hear
much.
it till the
right
end.
now.
You're going to hear it till the
I'd
end.
like to see her go down to
Talk
Washington,
about-
D.C.
It's a
during
very
the
big
day,
issue,
because
Talk about the
we spend a
economy.
lot of time.
Economy.
Go down to-
Yeah.
because she's been so
Economy.
bad. It's so
Economy hits
ridiculous.
everyone.
They're
Go
not
down
gonna-
to Washington,
very rare
D.C.
where they'll hit
and
that.
let her
He
sign
needs
a
to, I'm
bill
saying.
to close up the border because they have the right to do it. They
They
don't
let a
need
match under
bills.
his ass. Look at
They
him.
have the right to do it. The President of the United States, you'll get him out of bed. You'll wake him up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. You'll say, come on down to the office. Let's sign a bill. If he signs a bill that the border is closed, all he has to do is say it to the Border Patrol, who are phenomenal. If they do that, the border is closed.
Finally, he's
Those
doing it.
people are
I
killing
don't care if you're talking
many
about immigration.
people,
He ties it
unlike
to
J6.
We talked immigration here tonight. I do want to focus
Here
on
we go.
this next issue to
I
both
barely
because it really
talked on
brings
it.
us
It's just when he brings
this into
it up.
focus. Truth.
Oh, they said we talked to immigration. Like we talked to like
three and a
that.
half
He did
years
say that?
after
No, he said
you
we
lost
talked
the
about
2020
immigration.
election. You repeatedly falsely claimed that you won, many times saying you won in a landslide. In the past couple of weeks leading up to this debate, you have said, quote, you lost by a whisker, that you, quote, didn't quite make it, that you came up a little bit short.
I said that?
Are you now acknowledging that you lost in
No, I
2020?
don't acknowledge that at all.
But
I
you
said
did
that
say that.
sarcastically.
But
You know
those-
that. It was said, oh, we lost by a whisker. That was said sarcastically. Look, there's so much proof. All you have to do is look at
All
it.
right,
And they
get
should
off
have
the
sent
shit,
it back to
dude.
the legislatures for approval. I got almost 75 million votes, the most votes
They're-
any
they're
city
baiting
in
him.
this
It's a
highly
has
watched
ever
thing.
gotten.
I mean,
was
he's
told
gotta
if I got
prove his point
63, which
sometimes,
was what I
but-
got in
No, but they're
2016.
baiting him
Well,
right
yeah.
now. That's what they're trying to do.
No, they're doing what
The
Democrats
election-
always do. They're
people should never
gaslighting
be
him.
So
thinking
what they're
about
trying to
an
do is
election as
they'll-
fraudulent.
they'll-
We
Yeah, but
need two
Americans
things.
could
We need
believe this, so
walls,
he's kinda
we need-
being
and we have
good
to
in
have
a
it.
way, too.
We have to have
No, I
borders,
agree,
and we
but
have
what
to have
they're
good
doing
elections.
is, you know, they'll
Our
ask
elections
a
are bad.
very,
And a lot
very-
of these illegal
It's always
immigrants coming in, they're
January
trying to
6th,
get
and then we'll
them
talk
to
about the
vote.
rally.
They
Or
can't even
that was
speak
her
English.
doing the
They
rally,
don't
wasn't
even know
them.
what country they're in
But-
practically. And these
Then they'll
people
go
are
to the
trying
next
to get
thing
them to vote.
to like
And
a,
that's why
where
they're
it's
allowing
not
them
have to do with
come
that, but he's
into our
revved
country.
up,
I
and
did
then
watch all of
then
these
they go back
pieces
up
of
to it, and then
video.
they go to the next one.
I
kinda
didn't
thing.
Yeah,
detect
that's
the
why I wanted to
sarcasm,
talk
lost
as
by a whisper. We
least
didn't
as
quite make it.
possible.
And we
Unless
should
it's
just
about
point out here as
policy or
clarification,
something.
and you know this. You
Or
and your
her
60
and
cases
her
in
policies.
front of
And
many
Biden.
judges, many of them
No judge
Republican,
looked at it.
and said
Right,
They
there's
said
no
we didn't have
widespread fraud.
standing.
No one's talking
That's
about
the
Biden.
other thing. They said we didn't
Oh, wait,
have
this is
standing,
important.
a technicality. Can you imagine a system where a person in an election doesn't have standing? The president of the United States doesn't have standing. That's how we lost. If you look at the facts, and I'd love
court
to
will
have you,
take it.
you'll do a special on it. I'll show you Georgia, and I'll show you Wisconsin, and I'll show you Pennsylvania, and I'll show you. We have so many facts and statistics, but you know what? That doesn't matter because we have to solve the problem that we have right now. That's old news.
Yep.
And the problem that we
Good.
have right
Very
now
good.
There you
is
go.
we have
Pivot.
a
Pivot.
nation in decline,
Yep.
and they have put it into decline. We
This
have
is
a
what we
nation
need.
that is dying, David.
Mr. President, thank you. Vice President Harris, you heard the
back
president
in
there
now.
tonight. He
Good
said he didn't
shit.
say that he lost by a whisker. So he still believes he did not lose the election.
Here we go.
That was won
Gaslighting.
by
That's all it
President
is.
Biden and yourself. But I do want to ask you about something that's come up in the last couple of days. This was a post from President Trump about this upcoming election just weeks away. He said, when I win, those people who cheated, and then he lists donors, voters, election officials, he says will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, which will include long-term prison sentences. One of your campaign's top lawyers responded saying, we won't let Donald Trump intimidate us. We won't let him suppress the vote. Is that what you believe he's trying to do here?
Donald Trump was fired by 81 million people. So let's be clear about that. And clearly he is having a very difficult time processing that. But we cannot afford to have a president of the United States who attempts, as he did in the past, to upend the will of the voters in a free and fair election. And I'm going to tell you that I have traveled the world as Vice President of the United States, and world leaders are laughing at Donald Trump. I have talked with military leaders, some of whom worked with you, and they say you're a disgrace. And when you then talk in this way in a presidential debate and deny what over and over again are court cases you have lost because you did, in fact, lose that election, it leads one to believe that perhaps we do not have in the candidate to my right the temperament or the ability to not be confused about fact. That's deeply troubling, and the American people deserve better.
I'll give you 1 minute to respond, Mr. President.
Let me just say about world leaders. Viktor Orban, one of the most respected men.
There was no wars with Trump.
He's
no
a tough
wars.
person.
There was peace in the Middle
Smart.
East.
Prime Minister
They
of
brushed it
Hungary.
over like it was nothing.
They said, why
everyone
is
would
the
offer
whole
him a
world
Nobel Peace
blowing up?
Prize at the
3
time.
years ago,
Right.
it wasn't. Why is it blowing up? He said, because you need Trump back as president. They were afraid of him. China was afraid, and I don't like to use the word afraid, but I'm just quoting him. China was afraid of him. North Korea was afraid of him. Look at what's going on with North Korea, by the way. He said Russia was afraid of him. I ended the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, and Biden put it back on day one, but he ended the XL pipeline. The XL pipeline in
Yep,
our country.
there we go.
He ended that. But he let the Russians build a pipeline going all over Europe and heading into Germany, the biggest pipeline in the world.
And Germany,
Look,
they
Viktor
and he
Orban
warned Germany about,
said it.
hey, you guys are
He
going to
said
keep
the
going to
most
Russia. They're
They've
going
been
to
warning him about that for
Yep.
years.
Yep.
That
is
Russia could just
Donald
cut it
Trump.
off like that.
We had no problems when Trump was president, but when this weak, pathetic man that you saw at a debate
There we
just
go.
a few
Let's
months
go.
ago, that if he weren't in that debate, he'd be running instead of her. She got no votes. He got 14 million votes. What you did, you talk about a threat to democracy. He got 14 million votes, and they threw him out of office. And you know what? I'll give you a little secret. He hates her. He can't stand her. He got 14 million votes. They threw him out. She got 0 votes. And when she ran, she was the first one to leave because she failed. And now she's running. I don't understand it, but
Mr.
I'm
President,
okay with it
Mr.
because
President, your time is
I
up.
think we're
Thank
going to
you.
do very well.
We've got a lot more to get to.
Turning now to the Israel-Hamas
Why is he
war
always
and the
cut off?
hostages
It's not like
were
he's
still
talking
being
over 2
held in
minutes.
I think it's a good
American
time for-
I want to hear the question.
Vice
Commercial
President
break.
Harris, in
Quiet.
December, you said, quote, Israel has a right to defend itself, but you added, quote, it matters how, saying international humanitarian law must be respected. Israel must do more to protect innocent civilians. You said that 9 months ago. Now an estimated 40,000 Palestinians are dead. Nearly 100 hostages remain. Just last week, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said there's not a deal in the making. President Biden has not been able to break through the stalemate. How would you do it?
The whole issue is because of Biden to begin
Well,
with.
let's understand how we got here. October 7th, Hamas, a terrorist organization,
Ooh, that gonna hurt your voters.
slaughtered 1,200 Israelis. Many of them young people who were simply attending a concert.
She gonna
Women
regret
were
saying that.
horribly raped. And so absolutely, I said then, I say now, Israel has a right to defend itself. We would. And how it does so matters. Because it is also true, far too many innocent Palestinians have been killed. Children, mothers. What we know
How much
is
you think it's
that
gonna hurt her base?
this war must
Uh,
end.
Decent
It
amount.
must end immediately, and the way it will end is we need a ceasefire deal, and
That's
we
why
need the
she's not
hostages
projected
out.
to win right now.
And so we will continue
must win,
to
she
work
said.
around the clock on that. Work around the clock, also understanding that we must chart a course for a two-state solution. And in that solution, there must be security for the Israeli people and Israel, and in equal measure for the Palestinians. But the one thing I will assure you always, I will always give Israel the ability to defend itself, in particular as it relates to Iran and any threat that Iran and its proxies pose to Israel. But we must have a two-state solution where we can rebuild Gaza, where the Palestinians
I hope he talks about
have
the $6
security,
billion that
self-determination,
Biden gave to
and the
Iran,
dignity they
and then
so
froze.
rightly deserve.
Hope he does.
President Trump, how would you negotiate with Netanyahu and also Hamas in order to get the hostages out and prevent the killing of more innocent civilians in Gaza?
If I were president, it would have never started. If I were president, Russia would have never, ever, I know Putin very well, he would have never, and there was no
I like
threat of
this.
it either, by the way, for 4 years,
Even though it's
have
true.
gone into
What he's
Ukraine
saying. What
and
he's getting
killed
into.
millions of people when you add it up, far worse than people
Well, he'll
understand what's
hopefully
going on
answer the
over there. But when she mentions about Israel, all of a sudden, she hates Israel. She wouldn't even meet with Netanyahu when he went to Congress to make a very important speech.
True.
She refused to be there because she was at a sorority party of hers. She wanted to go to the sorority party. She hates Israel. If she's president, I believe that Israel will not exist within 2 years from now. And I've been pretty good at predictions, and I hope I'm wrong about that one. She hates Israel. At the same time, in her own way, she hates the Arab population because the whole place is going to get blown up. Arabs, Jewish people, Israel will be gone. It would have never happened. Iran was broke under Donald Trump. Now Iran has $300 billion because they took off all the sanctions that I had. Iran had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah or any of the 28 different spheres of terror. And they are spheres of terror, horrible terror. They had no money. It was a big story, and you know it. You covered it very well, actually. They had no money for terror. They were broke. Now they're a rich nation, and now what they're doing is they're spreading that money around. Look at what's happening with the Houthis and Yemen. Look at what's going on in the Middle East. This would have never happened. I will get that settled and fast, and I'll get the war with Ukraine and Russia ended. If I'm president-elect, I'll get it done before even becoming president.
Vice President Harris, he says you hate Israel.
That's absolutely not true. I have my entire career and life supported Israel and the Israeli people. He knows that. He's trying to, again, divide and distract from the reality, which is it is very well known that Donald Trump is weak and wrong on national security and foreign policy. It is well known that he admires
That's the one thing that
dictators, wants to be a dictator on day one.
She doesn't sound as confident right now.
I know.
Well, because I think he's getting his footing now.
Said of Putin that
they're screwed if he gets his footing before his first commercial break, I feel like.
To Ukraine. It is well known that he said when Russia went into Ukraine, it was brilliant. It is well known he exchanged love letters with Kim Jong-un, and it is absolutely well known that these dictators and autocrats are rooting for you to be president again because they're so clear.
But Putin just endorsed
you with flattery and favors. And that is why so many military leaders who you have worked with have told me you are a disgrace. That is why we understand that we have to have a president who is not consistently weak and wrong on national security, including the importance of
He also needs to talk about her not talking to the press at all either. He's not talking about that once.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
They're the ones,
At
and
least
she's
they're
the
finally
one
stopping her from
that caused it.
I
That's
like it.
weak on national security by allowing every nation last month for the year, 168 different countries sending people into our country. Their crime rates are way down. Putin endorsed her last week, said, I hope she wins. And I think he meant it because what he's gotten away with is absolutely incredible. It wouldn't have happened with me. The leaders of other countries think that they're weak and incompetent, and they are. They're grossly incompetent. And I just ask one question. Why does Biden go in and kill the Keystone Pipeline and approve the single biggest deal that Russia's ever made, Nord Stream 2, the biggest pipeline anywhere in the world going to Germany and all over Europe? Because they're weak and they're ineffective. And Biden, by the way,
President
gets paid
Trump,
a lot of money.
Thank you. We have a lot of issues to get to.
Oh, my God. How many times I do that?
ABC News
And him,
presidential
too.
debate
It's
from the
5
National
each.
Constitution Center right here.
It's ridiculous
Back
now.
in a moment.
Said
Fine.
what? Just interrupted them?
No, like, we have a lot to get to. We have a lot to get to.
Are you going to skip to the debate?
To continue here, and I want to turn to the war in Ukraine. We're now 2.5 years into this conflict. Mr. President, it has been the position of the Biden administration that we must defend Ukraine from Russia, from Vladimir Putin, to defend their sovereignty, their democracy, that it's in America's best interest to do so, arguing that if Putin wins, he may be emboldened to move even further into other countries. You have said you would solve this war in 24
one
hours.
more?
You said so just before the break tonight. How exactly would you do that?
Why isn't my mic
and I
not
want to ask you a
working?
very
Oh, there
simple
it is.
question tonight. Do you want Ukraine to win this war?
I want the war to stop. I want to save lives that are
I was
being
gonna say that.
uselessly,
Should we-
people being killed by the
All right,
millions.
hold on.
It's the millions.
What's going on?
It's so
Hey,
much
is it
worse
working?
than
If I
the
turn-
numbers
we can
that
hear
you're
you.
getting
We
with
can hear
your
you.
fake numbers.
I'll tell you later.
Look,
I'll tell you later.
Can you hear
we're
anything?
in for 250 billion or
Yeah.
more.
Can I have one of those beers,
Because
actually?
they don't ask Europe, which is a much bigger beneficiary to getting this thing done than we are. They're in for $150 billion less because Biden and you don't have the courage to ask Europe like I did with NATO. They paid
That's gonna be our
billions and
intro.
billions, hundreds of
right,
billions
quiet,
of dollars
quiet,
when
quiet.
I said, either you pay up or we're not going to protect you anymore. So that's maybe one of the reasons they don't like me as much as they like weak people. But you take a look at what's happening. We're in for 250 to 275.
I'm glad we're
billion.
live.
They're into 100 to 150. They should be forced to equalize. With that being said, I want to get the war settled. I know Zelensky very well, and I know Putin very well. I have a good relationship, and they respect your president, okay? They respect me. They don't respect Biden. How would you respect him? Why? For what reason?
Thank you. Go back to
He
Biden.
hasn't even made a phone call in 2 years to Putin. Hasn't spoken to anybody. They don't even try and get it. That is a war that's dying to be settled. I will get it settled before I even become president. If I win, when I'm president-elect, and what I'll do is I'll speak to one, I'll speak to the other, I'll get them together. That war would have never happened. And in fact, when I saw Putin after I left, unfortunately left because our country has gone to hell. But after I left, when I saw him building up soldiers, he did it after I left. I said, oh, he must be negotiating. It must be a good, strong point of negotiation. Well, it wasn't, because Biden had no idea how to talk to him. He had no idea how to stop it. And now you have millions of people dead, and it's only getting worse, and it could lead to World War III. Don't kid yourself, David. We're playing with World War III, and we have a president that we don't even know if he's... Where is our president? We don't even know if he's a president.
There we go.
There we
He
go.
came out of a
There we go.
campaign like a dog. We don't even know. Is he our president? But we have a president,
Mr. President,
that doesn't know he's alive.
Here we go. Cut him
your
off.
time is up. Just to clarify in the question, do you believe it's in the U.S. best interest for Ukraine to win this war, yes or no?
I think it's the U.S. best interest to get this war finished and just get it done.
All right.
Negotiate a deal, because we have to stop all of these human lives
They're trying to frame them right
from
now.
being destroyed.
I want to take this to Vice President Harris. I want to get your thoughts
Frame
on
'em on
support
what?
for Ukraine
To make 'em look
in
like a
this
Russian
moment.
asset
but also,
so they can go back
as
to the Russia
Commander in
hoax.
Chief
Should I
and
restart
elected,
the recording,
how would
pause,
you deal with
redo it, then
Vladimir
redo it
Putin,
again,
and
so
would it
make
be
sure it's
any
good or
different
no?
from what we're seeing from
It's up to
President
you.
Biden?
What?
Well, first
Never
of
mind.
all, it's important to remind the former president you're not running against Joe Biden, you're running against me.
Well,
I believe the reason that Donald Trump said
part
so
of
we
his
can't talk about Biden
administration.
would be
now
over
because you're part of
within
his
24 hours
administration.
because
Yeah,
he
what
would
the-
just give it up. And that's not
Oh,
who
please
we are
bring
as
that up.
Americans.
Please
Let's
bring that
understand
up,
what
dude.
happened here.
She like
I
low-key threw
actually
him under the bus,
met
too.
with Zelensky
Bye, Biden.
a few
That's
days
true.
before
That's true.
Russia
Low-key.
invaded,
Great point.
tried through force to change territorial boundaries, to defy one of the most important international rules and norms, which is the importance of sovereignty and territorial integrity. And I met with President Zelensky. I shared with him American intelligence about how he could defend himself. Days later, I went to NATO's eastern flank, to Poland and Romania. And through the work that I and others did, we brought 50 countries together to support Ukraine in its righteous defense. And because of our support, because of the air defense, the ammunition, the artillery, the javelins, the Abrams tanks that we have provided, Ukraine stands as an independent and free country. If Donald Trump were president, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv right now. And understand what that would mean, because Putin's agenda is not just about Ukraine. Understand why the European allies and our NATO allies are so thankful that you are no longer president, and that we understand the importance of the greatest military alliance the world has ever known, which is NATO, and what we have done to preserve the ability of Zelensky and the Ukrainians to fight for their independence. Otherwise, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv with his eyes on the rest of Europe, starting with Poland. And why don't you tell the 800,000 Polish Americans right here in Pennsylvania how quickly you would give up for the sake of favor and what you think is a friendship with what is known to be a dictator who would eat you for lunch.
Vice President Harris, thank you. We've heard from both of you on Ukraine tonight. Afghanistan came up in the last hour. I wanted her to respond to something you said earlier, and please, I'll give you a minute here.
Putin would be sitting in Moscow, and he wouldn't have lost 300,000 men and women, but he would have been sitting in Moscow. Quiet, please. He would have been sitting in Moscow, much happier than he is right now. But eventually, you know, he's got a thing that other people don't have. He's got nuclear weapons. They don't ever talk about that. He's got nuclear weapons. Nobody ever thinks about that. And eventually, maybe he'll use them, and maybe he hasn't been that threatening, but he does have that. Something we don't even like to talk about. Nobody likes to talk about it. But just so you understand, they sent her to negotiate peace before this war started. 3 days later, he went in and he started the war because everything they said was weak and stupid. They said the wrong things. That war should have never started. She was the emissary. They sent her in to negotiate with Zelensky and Putin, and she did. And the war started 3 days later. And that's the kind of talent we have with her. She's worse than Biden. In my opinion, I think he's the worst president in the history of our country. She goes down as the worst vice president in the history of our country. But let me tell you something. She is a horrible negotiator. They sent her in to negotiate. As soon as they left, Putin.
You can't beat anyone when it comes to negotiating with Trump.
You did bring up something.
Trump.
You said
really
she went to
can't.
negotiate with Vladimir Putin. Vice President Harris, have you ever met Vladimir Putin? Can you clarify tonight?
Yet again, I said it at the beginning of this debate, you're going to hear a bunch of lies coming from this fellow. And that is another one.
Touche.
When I went to meet with President Zelensky, and I met with him over 5 times.
That's funny, Drew.
The reality is it has been about standing as America always should, as a leader upholding international rules and norms, as a leader who shows strength, understanding that the alliances we have around the world are dependent on our ability to look out for our friends and not favor our enemies because you adore strongmen instead of caring about democracy. And that is very much what is at stake here. The President of the United States is commander-in-chief. And the American people have a right to rely on a president who understands the significance of America's role and responsibility in terms of ensuring that there is stability and ensuring we stand up for our principles and not sell them for the benefit of personal flattery.
We've talked about Ukraine and Vladimir Putin. I do want to talk about Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of this debate. I wanted to move on to Afghanistan.
Stoltenberg said Trump did the most amazing thing I've ever seen. He got these countries, the 28 countries at the time, to pay up. He said, I've never seen. He's the head of NATO. He said, I've never seen. For years, we were paying almost all of NATO. We were being ripped off by European nations, both on trade and on NATO. I got them to pay up by saying one of the statements you made before, if you don't pay, we're not going to protect you.
President
Otherwise,
Trump.
we would have never gotten it. He said it was one of the most incredible jobs that he's ever seen done.
Thank you. I want to turn to Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of the debate, and we witnessed a poignant moment today on Capitol Hill, honoring the soldiers
13
who
soldiers.
died in the chaotic withdrawal
13
from Afghanistan.
soldiers.
I do want to ask the Vice
We
President.
had Dave on here.
Do you believe
Dave was
he
the second last one getting pulled out from Afghanistan. So
Well, I will tell you, I
Second
agree
last,
with President Biden's
troop.
decision to pull out of Afghanistan. 4 presidents said they would, and Joe Biden did. And as a result, America's taxpayers are not paying the $300 million a day we were paying for that endless war.
That smile is
And
100%
as of today, there is not
perfect for Trump.
one member of the United States military who is in active duty in a combat zone in any war zone around the world, the first time this century. But let's understand how we got to where we are. Donald Trump, when he was president, negotiated one of the weakest deals you can imagine. He calls himself a deal maker. Even his national security advisor said it was a weak, terrible deal. And here's how it went down. He bypassed the Afghan government. He negotiated directly with a terrorist organization called the Taliban. The negotiation involved the Taliban getting 5,000 Taliban terrorists released. And get this. And the president at the time invited the Taliban to Camp David, a place of storied significance for us as Americans, a place where we honor the importance of American diplomacy, where we invite
the
and
importance
receive
and significance. She says it like every other
world
word.
leaders.
As I described.
And this former president, as president, invited them.
Sorry, she got
Camp David because he
choked up.
does not again appreciate the role and responsibility of the President of the United States to be commander-in-chief with a level of respect. And this gets back to the point of how he has consistently disparaged and demeaned members of our military, fallen soldiers, and the work that we must do to uphold the strength and the respect of the United States of America around the world.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, your response to her saying that you began the negotiations with the Taliban.
So if you take a look at that period of time, the Taliban was killing our soldiers, a lot of them, with snipers. And I got involved with the Taliban because the Taliban was doing the killing. That's the fighting force within Afghanistan. They don't bother doing that because, they deal with the wrong people all the time. But I got involved. And Abdul is the head of the Taliban. He is still the head of the Taliban. And I told Abdul, don't do it anymore. You do it anymore, you're going to have problems. And he said, why do you send me a picture of my house? I said, you're going to have to figure that out, Abdul. And for 18 months, we had nobody killed. We did have an agreement negotiated by Mike Pompeo. It was a very good agreement. The reason it was good, we were getting out. We would have been out faster than them, but we wouldn't have lost the soldiers. We wouldn't have left many Americans behind, and we wouldn't have left $85 billion worth of brand new, beautiful military equipment behind. And just to finish, they blew it. The agreement said you have to do this, and they didn't do it. They didn't do it. The agreement was terminated by us because they didn't do what they were supposed to do.
I want to move on.
And these people did the worst withdrawal, and in my opinion, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. And by the way, that's why Russia attacked Ukraine, because they saw how incompetent she and her boss are.
President Trump, thank you. I want to move on now to race and politics in this country. Mr. President, you recently said of Vice President Harris, quote, I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. I want to ask a bigger picture question here tonight. Why do you believe it's appropriate to weigh in on the racial identity of your opponent?
I don't, and I don't care.
It's because she does.
I don't care what
it's because she does.
I don't care. You make a big deal out of something. I couldn't care less. Whatever she wants to be is okay with me.
But those were your words, so I'm asking.
I don't know. I mean, all I can say is I read where she was not black, that she put out, and I'll say that. And then I read that she was black, and that's okay. Either one was okay with me. That's up to her. That's up to her.
Vice President Harris, your thoughts on this?
I think honestly, I think it's a tragedy that we have someone who wants to be president who has consistently, over the course of his career, attempted to use race to divide the American people.
I'm sorry, dude. This is ridiculous.
Of us know that we have so much more in common than what separates us, and we don't want this kind of approach that is just constantly trying to divide us, and especially by race. And let's remember how Donald Trump started. He was land. He owned buildings. And he was investigated because he refused to rent.
What's this question going to do to benefit the American people?
Let's remember, this is the same individual.
Why Trump asked if she was black or Indian. How does that question better our lives?
Calling for the execution.
It doesn't matter.
It's very weighted on one side. All right, we're recording. All right, sorry, we had some technical difficulties. Drew, we're okay. You're going to fix all this with CGI.
Yep.
CGI. That's what your next thing is for the podcast. All right, let's go.
Sweet. We're going to have a CGI guest.
We see in each other a neighbor. We don't want a leader who is constantly trying to have Americans point their fingers at each other. I meet with people all the time who tell me, can we please just have discourse about how we're going to invest in the aspirations and the ambitions and the dreams of the American people? Knowing that regardless of people's color or the language their grandmother speaks, we all have the same dreams and aspirations and want a president who invests in those, not in hate and division.
Vice President Harris, thank you. Lindsay?
President Trump, this is now your third time.
This is the
I just want to say before President Trump's, I just want to clarify for fact check. Everything he said is wrong. That's what they say.
There's never been anything like
Pretty
it.
much.
They're destroying our country, and they come up with things like what she just said.
Chris,
going back
look up online about the
many
abortion thing he
years,
said.
When a lot of people, including Mayor Bloomberg,
The abortion thing he was talking about
Central
after
Park
9 months
fight, they
after
admitted,
delivery.
They said they pled guilty. And I said, well, if they pled guilty, they badly hurt a person, killed a person ultimately. And if they pled guilty, then they pled, we're not guilty. But this is a person that has to stretch back years, 40, 50 years ago, because there's nothing now. I built one of the greatest economies in the history of the world, and I'm going to build it again. It's going to be bigger, better, and stronger. But they're destroying our economy. They have no idea what a good economy is. Their oil policies, every single policy. And remember this, She is Biden. You know, she's trying to get away from Biden. I don't know the gentleman. She says she is Biden. The worst inflation we've ever had. A horrible economy because inflation has made it so bad, and she can't get away with that.
Thank you. Time's up.
I want to respond to that, though. I want to just respond briefly. Clearly, I am not Joe Biden, and I am certainly not Donald Trump.
What?
And what I do offer is a new generation of leadership for our country.
But you're
One who
you're associated
believes
with the current one. That's
in what
brung
is
us down.
possible.
To
One
answer
who
your
brings a
past
sense
question
of
about abortion,
optimism
6 states,
about what
including
we can
Washington,
do instead
D.C.,
of
do not
always
impose any
disparaging
terms of
the
restrictions on
American
abortion.
people. I
So that includes
believe
late term.
in what we can do to strengthen our small businesses, which is why I have a plan. Let's talk about our plans and let's compare the plans. I have a plan to give startup businesses $50,000 tax deduction to pursue their ambitions, their innovation, their ideas, their hard work. I have a plan, $6,000 for young families for the first
Give
year of your
everyone money.
child's life to help you
Money
in that
printer.
most critical stage of your child's development. I have a plan that is about allowing people to be able to pursue what has been fleeting in terms of the American dream by offering a help with down payment of $25,000 down payment assistance for first-time home buyers. That's the kind of conversation, I believe, David, that people really want tonight, as opposed to a conversation that is constantly about belittling and name-calling. Let's turn the page.
Vice President
and move
Harris.
Who is
forward.
name
Thank you.
calling?
Let's
He
turn
didn't
to
call
policy.
Literally
Let's turn
her.
We
to
have to
policy.
move on. President Trump.
Let's turn to policy,
She has
please.
a plan to defund the police. She has a plan
Not
to
true.
confiscate everybody's gun.
President Trump,
she
we
has
do
a
have to
plan
move on to
not
other
allow
issues.
fracking in Pennsylvania or anywhere else.
Okay. Thank
you,
That's
Mr.
what her
President.
plan is until just recently.
I just need
Lindsey,
to
go ahead.
respond
President
because
Trump,
no, the
President
former
Trump.
president has
No,
said
I'm
something
sorry.
twice that I need to
No,
respond to.
I'm sorry. We're
I just
going
need
to move
respond
on, Vice
one
President
time
Harris.
to what he has
President
said
Trump, this
multiple
is
times.
now your
Yes.
third time running for president. You have long vowed
Finally,
to
the first time they
repeal
cut her
and
off
replace
tonight.
The Affordable
No,
Care
they've
Act,
cut her off, like,
also
once.
known
Well,
as
I'm saying, like,
Obamacare.
actually,
you have failed
actually,
to
yeah.
accomplish that. You now say you're going to keep Obamacare, quote, unless we can do something much better. Last month, you said, quote, we're working on it. So tonight, 9 years after you first started running, do you have a plan, and can you tell us what it is?
Obamacare was lousy health care, always was. It's not very good today. And what I said, that if we come up with something, and we are working on things, we're going to do it and we're going to replace it. But remember this, I inherited Obamacare because Democrats wouldn't change it. They wouldn't vote for it. They were unanimous. They wouldn't vote to change it. If they would have done that, we would have had a much better plan than Obamacare. But the Democrats came up. They wouldn't vote for it. I had a choice to make when I was president. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, never going to be great, or do I let it rot? And I felt I had an obligation, even though politically it would have been good to just let it rot and let it go away. I decided, and I told my people, the top people, and they're very good people. I have a lot of good people in that administration. We read about the bad ones. We had some real bad ones too, and so
thought it
do
was
they.
only
They
90
have
minutes
really
long.
bad ones. The difference is they don't get rid of them. But let me
Not
just
even as long.
explain. I had a choice
What
to
are we
make.
at?
Do I save
We're at
it and make it as
10:45,
good as
and we're
it can
barely
be,
behind
or
live
do I
because
let
we
it
just
rot?
paused it for technical
And I
difficulties.
saved it. I did the right thing, but it's still never
Makes you
going
see
to be
that.
great, and it's too expensive for people. And what we will do is we're looking at different plans. If we can come up with a plan that's going to cost our people, our population, less money and be better health care than Obamacare, then I would absolutely do it. But until then, I'd run it as good as it can be run.
So just a yes or no, you still do not have a plan.
I have concepts of a plan. I'm not president right now. But if we come up with something, I would only change it if we come up with something that's better and less expensive. And there are concepts and options we have to do that. And you'll be hearing about it in the not too distant future.
Vice President Harris, in 2017,
That was kinda
you
weak.
supported Bernie Sanders' proposal to do away with private insurance and create a government-run healthcare system. 2 years later, you proposed a plan that included
Chris, you would know.
the private
What-
insurance
what,
option. What is your plan today?
What did she point Bernie
First of
Sanders
all,
to?
I absolutely support, and over the
I
last
also
4
do.
years
Did you hear
as vice
that?
president,
She
private
said she
healthcare
promised him
options,
a
but what we need
seat
to do is
somewhere.
maintain and grow the
I don't
Affordable
know.
Care
I
Act.
thought-
I'll get to that, Lindsay. I just need to respond to a previous point that the former president has made. I've made very clear my position on fracking, and then this business about taking everyone's guns away. Tim Walz and I are both gun owners. We're not taking anybody's guns away. So stop with the continuous lying about this stuff. As it relates to the Affordable Care Act, understand, let's just look at the history to know where people stand. When Donald Trump was president, 60 times he tried to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. 60 times. I was a senator at the time when I will never forget the early morning hours when it was up for a vote in the United States Senate. And the late,
Drew, would you rather have
John
the Affordable
McCain,
Care Act or Obamacare?
who you have disparaged as being you don't
Affordable
like him,
Care
you
Act
said,
applies
at the
to
time
more than
because
just healthcare,
he got
right?
caught. He was an American hero. The late, great John McCain, I will never forget that night, walked onto the Senate floor and said, no, you don't.
Is my question not valid, though?
No, you don't get rid of the Affordable Care Act. You have no plan. And what the Affordable Care Act has done is eliminate the ability of insurance companies to deny people with pre-existing conditions. I don't have to tell the people watching tonight, you remember what that was like? Remember when an insurance company could deny if a child had asthma, if someone was a breast cancer survivor, if a grandparent had diabetes? And thankfully, as I've been vice president and we over the last 4 years have strengthened the Affordable Care Act, we have allowed for the first time Medicare to negotiate drug prices on behalf of you, the American people. Donald Trump said he was going to allow Medicare to negotiate drug prices. He never did. We did. And now we have capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month. Since I've been vice president, we have capped the cost of prescription medication for seniors at $2,000 a year. And when I am president, we will do that for all people, understanding that the value I bring to this is that access to health care should be a right and not just a privilege of those who can afford it. And the plan has to be to strengthen the Affordable Care Act, not get rid of it.
Vice President Harris,
going to be paid by the everyday taxpayer.
I want to move to an issue
gonna
that's
hurt us
important
more.
for a
She
lot
made a
of
mistake. At number one, John McCain
She
fought
made a mistake.
Obamacare for 10 years. But it wasn't only him. It were all of the Democrats that kept it going. And you know what? We can do much better than Obamacare, much less money. But she won't improve private insurance for people, private medical insurance. That's another thing she doesn't want to get. People are paying privately for insurance that have worked hard and made money, and they want to have private. She wants everybody to be on government insurance where you wait 6 months for an operation that you need immediately.
President Trump, thank you. We have another issue that we'd like to get to.
Universal
It's
basic
important for a
health
number
care.
of Americans, in
50%
particular
tax.
younger voters, and that's climate change. President Trump, with regard to the environment, you say that we have to have clean air and clean water. Vice President Harris, you call climate change an existential threat. The question to you both tonight is, what would you do to fight climate change? And Vice President Harris, we'll start with you. 1 minute for you each.
Well, the former president had said the climate change is a hoax. And what we know is that it is very real. You ask anyone who lives in a state who has experienced these extreme weather occurrences, who now is either being denied home insurance or it's being jacked up. You ask anybody who has been the victim of what that means in terms of losing their home, having nowhere to go. We know that we can actually deal with this issue. The young people of America care deeply about this issue. And I am proud that as vice president over the last
Probably
4
'cause you're
years,
spoon-feeding
we have
it to
invested
them.
$1 trillion in a clean
Do you
energy
notice how she
economy,
hasn't even answered the
while we have
question?
also
I know.
She completely
increased
avoided it.
domestic gas production to historic levels. We have created
And
over
she's the renewable
800,000
energy,
new manufacturing jobs while I have been vice president. We have invested in clean energy to the point that we are opening up factories around the world. Donald Trump said he was going to create manufacturing jobs. He lost manufacturing jobs.
COVID.
And I'm also proud to have the endorsement of the United Auto Workers and Sean Fain, who also know that part of building a clean
their
energy
unions sent
economy
their jobs
includes
overseas.
investing
Great
in
endorsement.
American-made products, American automobiles. It includes growing what we can do around American manufacturing and opening up auto plants, not closing them like happened under Donald Trump.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
That didn't happen under Donald
Just
Trump.
like the
Let me just
union
tell you, they
endorsed it.
lost 10,000 manufacturing jobs this last month. It's going, they're all leaving. They're building big auto plants in Mexico, in many cases owned by China. They're building these massive plants, and they think they're going to sell their cars into the United States because of these people. What they have given to China is unbelievable. But we're not going to let that. We'll put tariffs on those cars so they can't come into our country because they will kill the United Auto Workers and any auto worker, whether it's in Detroit or South Carolina or any other place. What they've done to business and manufacturing in this country
Back on immigration?
is horrible. We have nothing
Manufacturing.
because they refuse. You know, Biden doesn't go after people because supposedly China paid him millions of dollars. He's afraid to do it. Between him and his son, they get all this money from Ukraine.
First
They
time
get all
I
this money
heard about
from
Hunter.
all of these different countries, and then you wonder, why is he so loyal to this one, that one, Ukraine, China? Why is he? Why did he get $3.5 million from the mayor of Moscow's wife? Why did she pay him $3.5 million? This is a crooked administration, and they're selling our country down the tubes.
President Trump, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be right back with closing statements from both of our candidates.
Yep.
An historic night, this ABC News presidential debate. From
No
Philadelphia.
hesitation.
Back in a moment.
I got a few minutes of fast forwarding.
This is what I was afraid of CNN doing, but ABC did it. So
What's that?
completely, it's a 3-on-1.
Yeah.
They've been throwing her snowballs, and they've been trying to throw him curveballs the whole
Closing
night.
statements and Vice President.
So far, I'm going to pause it. What do you guys think?
Biased, very biased interview
What do you think?
or debate. I'm sorry.
Easy.
Yeah, it's not as fair as but I figured it wouldn't be like that.
Well, I expected that from CNN, like you were just saying. Like I was expecting that debate, but I think they were trying to sabotage Biden at the time.
Agreed.
They're also utilizing the fact that Trump has a better opponent this time. Well, like a more semi-coherent opponent.
Yeah.
That Trump is?
That he has a debate with a more
Of course.
semi-coherent.
Well, but like I said, I think Trump so far though has been.
I think he still needs to go back to like. I know he's throwing it in there, but yeah, like why aren't you doing anything now? Kind of
Yes,
thing.
because
I'm hoping
not.
that's
I don't
coming.
think he really isn't. He's
done it a little bit, yeah,
with just
barely,
the
though.
little throws of Biden here and there, but it has not been like. This needs to be the main point of the whole debate. I don't know why he hasn't done this. I don't know why he's not done this.
What is that?
Well, yeah, people need to know she's part of the administration because there's probably a lot of people that don't actually know she's a vice president. I mean, like they probably know now if they're watching.
Well, I think people know, but I'm saying like
there's probably a lot of people that don't know. Who
but no,
she
but
is
it's just
for that reason.
the disconnect between people. I feel like that they don't realize because they glorify her so crazy. So you got the media, and obviously these last few weeks she's barely done any press, and with all that, they are just hyping her up as this joyful person, Ben Shapiro. But no, but I really mean that, though. They are. And with that, though, I do feel like this debate has been very one-sided with everything. And I don't know. It's just been pretty crazy.
Yeah, it could be worse, but
It's
not
he,
terrible.
He
but
needs to redirect it. But it's too late now. I think
she's doing a decent job, though.
You think so? I think she's doing better, but
yeah.
Do you think she's doing good, or do you think it's because of the way they're handling the timing?
It's because of the way they're handling it.
Do you think so?
Yeah.
Both.
I think she's just doing good. I don't think she's doing great.
No, I think she's doing better than. But
there's nothing clear that I've heard. Like she hasn't really answered, in a way. But she's.
I also think
the way she's
there's-
responding is good.
Yeah.
She has this like sort of sense of confidence because you could tell from the beginning she didn't think she would do this good. And
Well, I
she's
think
just
that
rolling with it.
came with the
She's doing better than I
The
anticipated.
only reason she's doing so good, she's
the
avoiding
commentators-
answing the questions. She's
What?
avoiding
Yeah.
them all.
Yeah, that's
she's
the
not
thing.
talking
you're not
anything
getting
about her
substance.
policy.
That's what I'm saying.
yes, I agree. And then like I said, the commentators I feel like are very just lobbing it up. And then when it goes to they go to Trump, and then they cut it off there to just get the last word and then leave it at that final statement. So people,
like if I'm-
people
if
remember
I'm-
that.
And notice every time Trump's talking, they keep Kamala on the screen. But when Kamala's talking, they don't have the side by side with Trump on there.
I know. If I'm a moderate, I don't know if I could say Trump's winning in this situation.
Yeah, let's think of it this way. Honestly, think if you're a moderate right now, how would you feel? Like,
If I was
don't get rid of your bias. That's gonna be very, very hard to do. Like,
Well, that's what I'm trying to say. I
Yes,
don't know where
yes.
I'd go at this point.
This
Like
is
Kamala's
hard.
not really giving you an answer, but
Yeah.
at the same time, I don't think she's like.
but
I wouldn't vote for her. Kind of
but
thing.
the light of Trump has definitely been tampered. I feel like on purpose.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you guys agree?
That's what I'm saying. It's kind of hard to
What do you think?
sway one way or the
If
other.
I was a normie, I wouldn't know what to think. Right
That's
now.
what I'm
If
saying.
I was a
yeah,
normal
I
individual,
agree.
not in politics
Purple?
every day, I wouldn't know what to do.
Yeah.
I'd be like, "Where's
that's kind of the
RFK?
problem. Yeah, that's
Where's
yeah.
Robert F. Kennedy?"
Honestly, though, we really got to get Drew's opinion.
because I'm the more moderate one. out of
Honestly,
the
no,
group.
not that you're moderate. You're just so involved in politics, and you're like Ben Shapiro's mentor.
His rabbi. All right. All right.
So, what do you think so far? Everyone, shut up. Drew's talking.
Thank you.
Shut up.
No, hold on. I just want to answer that. I think they're both hell bent on attacking each other right now, and it's coming from Trump too. It's not just Kamala. And I think they just need to both make their points across, but it's obviously too late now because it's almost over. They want to just continuously bring up the same thing against each other, and it's not not solving any new issues that haven't been discussed.
How much do you guys think it was a plot in terms of how to control the conversation, or do you guys not think that
manipulation?
Well, like the way they talk about things and the way they, like I said, I do think the way they ask questions is meant to. I think they ask a question that's going to rev up Trump, and then they ask a softball question right after the show.
Yeah.
And that's just my opinion, but
I can see
the one that did that though was the first one was Kamala though when it came to the rallies, and then, but I think that was her. But
that was like a scripted line. You could tell.
Dude, oh yeah,
throw this in there at some point or something.
I called it instantly. It was going to be a problem. I did, so I knew he was.
I don't know. I guess I could say Trump may be winning just because he has kind of pointed out some things.
We got a lot of this being posted on X right now. I don't know if y'all can see it.
What is that?
A lot of people are covering Kamala in their TVs right now. Because they clearly see how biased it is.
Okay. I honestly, though, I feel like the most American people are realizing the BS, and they're really starting to smell it because
people are waking up.
Well, we've been walking through.
Well, that's
for so
what I'm saying.
long.
If the day-by-day American, like, they realize the economy, they realize the immigration's a problem. Like,
they realize
maybe Trump's kind of winning in that debate in that aspect because they know what's going on and they can believe what he's saying. But other than that, like, I don't know. Like, I don't think he's killing.
What would you give it?
Necessarily.
I know you're kind of split right now. If you were a purple, but what would you say? Is it 50-50 right now? You couldn't give anything.
No, I
over.
think Trump's got the edge. That's what I was trying to say.
What do you think?
Just
Chris?
by a little bit, though. It ain't like a killing.
If I was a normie, I would be undecided.
You really would?
I like the term.
If I was a normie.
But here's the one thing.
I'm saying if I'm a normie, but you know what's going on in the country. Well, that I might be a little bit more towards
Stop
Trump.
saying normie. I like your term purple. Let's start using that.
Okay.
Well, it's true. Like that's the best way to put it.
Well, I just said moderate, but it's the same thing.
I'm more of a maroon guy myself.
All right, let's keep going.
President Harris, we begin with you.
So I think you've heard tonight two very different visions for our country. One that is focused on the future, and the other that is focused on the past, and an attempt to take us backward. But we're not going back. And I do believe that the American people know we all have so much more in common than what separates us. And we can chart a new way forward. And a vision of that includes having a plan, understanding the aspirations, the dreams, the hopes, the ambition of the American people, which is why I intend to create an opportunity economy, investing in small businesses, in new families, in what we can do around protecting seniors, what we can do that is about giving hardworking folks a break and bringing down the cost of living. I believe in what we can do together that is about sustaining America's standing in the world and ensuring that we have the respect that we so rightly deserve, including respecting our military and ensuring we have the most lethal fighting force in the world. I will be a president that will protect our fundamental rights and freedoms, including the right of a woman to make decisions about her own body and not have her government tell her what to do. I'll tell you, I started my career as a prosecutor. I was a DA, I was an attorney general, a United States senator, and now vice president. I've only had one client, the people. And I'll tell you, as a prosecutor, I never asked a victim or a witness, are you a Republican or a Democrat? The only thing I ever asked them, are you okay? And that's the kind of president we need right now. Someone who cares about you and is not putting themselves
Are you okay
first.
from Biden's
I
administration?
intend to be a president for all Americans and focus on what we can do over the next 10 and 20 years to build back up our country by investing right now in you, the American people.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump?
So she just started by saying she's going to do this, she's going to do that, she's going to do all these wonderful
There we go,
things.
finally.
Why hasn't she done it? She's been there for 3.5 years. They've had 3.5 years to fix the border. They've had 3.5 years to create jobs, and all the things we talked about. Why hasn't she done it? She should leave right now, go down to that beautiful White House, go to the Capitol, get everyone together and do the things you want to do, but you haven't
He should
done
literally
it,
just
and
say
you won't do it.
everything that we
Because
just
you believe
debated
in
tonight.
things
Why
that
are you not
the
doing it right
American
now?
people don't
Everything.
believe in. You believe in things like we're not going to frack, we're not going to take fossil fuel, we're not going to do things that are going to make this country strong, whether you like it or not. Germany tried that, and within 1 year they were back to building normal energy plants. We're not ready for it. We can't sacrifice our country for the sake of bad vision. But I just ask one simple question. Why didn't she do it? We're a failing nation. We're a nation that's in serious decline. We're being laughed at all over the world. All over the world, they're laughing. I know the leaders very well. They're coming to see me. They call me. We're laughed at all over the world. They don't understand what happened to us as a nation. We're not a leader. We don't have any idea what's going on. We have wars going on in the Middle East. We have wars going on with Russia and Ukraine. We're going to end up in a third world war, and it'll be a war like no other because of nuclear weapons, the power of weaponry. I rebuilt our entire military. She gave a lot of it away to the Taliban. She gave it to Afghanistan. What these people have done to our country, and maybe toughest of all, is allowing millions of people to come into our country. Many of them are criminals, and they're destroying our country. The worst president, the worst vice president in the history of our country.
President Trump, thank you. And that is our ABC News presidential debate from here in Philadelphia at the National Constitution Center. I'm Lindsay Davis.
And I'm David Muir. Thank you for watching here in the U.S. and all over the world, and from all of us here at ABC News. Good night.
Thank you. And we are here live on ABC with our post-debate comments. I'm Martha Raddatz. It was a lively debate from the economy to abortion to Afghanistan.
I just want to hear what they say for a second.
And it was historic.
Okay.
John Carl, fiery.
Wow. Wow. That was quite a debate. And I'm Jonathan Carl here with, of course, Mary Bruce and Rachel Scott. Our reporters across the news division have been updating our live blog, looking at some of the allegations made back and forth, doing fact checks. You can find all of that on abcnews.com. But I would like to replay the moment at the very start of this debate because it was quite a moment. The handshake. And if you look,
Harris. Let's have a good debate. Thank you.
I mean,
Welcome
quite a
to
moment.
you,
First of all, because we hadn't seen a handshake. We haven't seen a handshake in a long time.
And she initiated that one.
And
yeah, she did.
I mean, not only did she initiate it, she walked over to him and sought him out, put the hands out, and also made the first.
That's what
one.
initiated.
Get him, Drew.
That is what initiate means. Thank you for spelling it out.
So at the bottom line, what did you think?
I think clearly what Kamala Harris wanted to do was be the candidate of hope, the candidate of the future.
Of joy.
Donald Trump seemed angry within 4 minutes. I think we saw him going from very serious at the beginning.
All right,
never
Chris,
really
should
seemed
I pause
to look
this?
at her. To just angry.
How's it looking on
really
Twitter?
yelling
Or X, I
at
should
some
say.
Points, trying to make
the bias is
to
being
make
called
his
out
point.
very well, but Poly Market right now, it's showing Trump is slightly beating her by 1 percentage point now. So
In terms
told
of
you.
in terms of polling right now,
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty crazy.
But
Told
Poly
you.
Market
Slight
just
one.
it's just a bunch of betters, so
Yeah.
you can't take it
Were
too
you
serious. but-
expecting otherwise?
Well, no, but it didn't go the way I expected
figured
it
he
to.
would throw
no, but
all
I
that
had-
at the end.
Do you guys agree though? It did not go the way you expected it to tonight.
Absolutely.
What do you think? How do you? I know you watch politics every day, so like
For the most part, yeah.
yeah. So how do you feel about like how?
Well, like I said, I think it went well in Trump's favor. I just think Kamala did a better job than I would have expected. But
I agree.
I kind of expected that at the same time because she's going to prepare. She hasn't done anything for 50 days. So I knew she'd have something up her sleeve. Like she would, be prepared for this. So because she hasn't been doing any other interviews other than the 18 minutes on CNN that she did. That was pre-scripted.
with Dana.
I also forgot to mention on X, they're already accusing Kamala of cheating by wearing audio receptive.
Right.
But you never know.
She's been prepared like crazy.
But we don't know. We don't know. That's all talk online, though. So like, I don't mean. I'm not trying to. But
right.
like,
Nothing substantial.
no, but I'm not trying to. I'm not trying to undercut it. If it's true,
Yeah.
it's true. But I don't want to get hyped up into something that
Right.
I don't know. But
I'm still satisfied with the outcome, though.
I'll be honest with you. I think
surprise me.
I think overall, I think Trump. I don't know if he. I honestly, I don't feel like he won as much as I wanted him to. I think
I
you
don't
would
think
agree
he
with that. I
killed
think
it.
no.
That's what I'm saying.
But I also don't think he did. I think he really was not as good as he could have been, though. Like, I think he really. It didn't look like he. Usually, it's like when he's on. But this is like it was shaky. But
He could have been feeling her out.
but I don't know how much you think it was, because I feel like it was going good, and you could see the distress in her face. We talked about it right away.
Yeah.
But then, like I said, as soon as the commentator, I don't know. I don't want to just blame it on the commentators, because I feel like it's such an easy thing to do for every side, you know. But at the same time, how many times did he get cut off? I'd like to find out the facts, and like
Right.
how many times. Like, I'd love to. You
I think he did a fine job.
I think he did good, but I expected him to be better, especially with what he was given.
I don't think it's
especially
him.
with
I don't think it was on him.
Yeah, I was
50
gonna
minute
say, do you think that's entirely his fault? Though?
Yes, I do, because he got wrapped up into it too much. I'm not saying he did bad.
I feel like
I'm not
before you
saying he
make
did
that
bad.
assumption, you need to compare, contrast the questions between him and Kamala,
I'm
because
not-
she was getting snowballs the whole
Okay,
time.
but
man.
also
That's why
compare
I think he did good to what he had.
But compare compare and contrast the administration between the two, Trump and Kamala and Biden. So he could have dove in, like we all agreed the whole time. He could have dove into it more, and the way he did it, he waited. Till
I think
the
you're saying
he
it to the end.
finally
I
did it.
figured he was doing that, yeah.
but he should not have, because it does. No one cares. They're gonna see.
Yeah,
the
but
slips.
if he did it in the middle,
You
I
gotta
think he would have been cut
keep
off
it up,
like he's been doing.
So he did it with immigration the whole time instead.
But you got to.
He always does that.
You got to
Okay,
remember
but
too. There's more
how
debates.
much more impactful with the? No, there's not any more debates. Most
Yes,
likely,
there is. There's going to be one more.
You
At
think
least
so?
one- yes.
Wanna put a bet on
Probably
it?
after
There's
that.
at
Let's
least
put a
going to
bet
be
on
one
it.
more. There's going to be
Let's
at
put a
least
bet
one
on
more.
it. How much
What
do you
do you
think?
wanna bet?
What do you want to bet?
I'll bet you my XRP. That's how confident I am.
All right,
All right, guys,
All right,
leave-
all right,
leave it
all
in the
right.
comments. What do you think?
Leave it in the comments.
What's that worth? What's that worth?
Well, it depends how much you want.
Well, you said XRP, so what do you think that's
Well,
worth?
that means you'd have to bet the same amount
I'll
too.
bet you 50,
not
50 bucks
free
of
for you.
XRP.
Wait,
There
how
you
much
go.
is it in pesos?
Pesos?
All right,
I have
go
no
ahead.
idea.
$100.
$100 of XRP?
$100. Well, do I want XRP? Because I don't know this. This is BS.
We're waiting for the comments.
I don't know.
I like that idea.
What do you think?
About the pesos?
No, the
You
Do a
think,
poll.
you think there's
Do
gonna be
a poll.
another
Yeah, let's do a
debate?
poll.
Another debate?
After this one, possibly. Before I wouldn't have said that.
Actually, no. I'm kind of
Just the way it turned out.
Now
I
that you
think
said
so.
that, Jordan. Now that you said that, it's making me.
Just because it was kind of even. There's really, you know what I mean?
I'll do $100 in XRP. I'll
If
do
he
it.
killed her, I don't
No.
think so.
I talked to my advisor over here, so no,
You
I don't know.
I wouldn't bet my life on it.
Would you
but
put $100 on it?
I'll put $100 on it.
Would
if,
you?
if there's another one?
What is even
Yeah.
the question? What are we
Would
talking
they have
about?
another debate? What, Drew? Are you in the podcast? Like,
I'm
what's
just,
going on?
no,
right
you
now?
guys are just talking about XRP and pesos and
pesos.
You brought up the pesos.
I'd feel comfortable. I wouldn't feel comfortable doing 100.
No. What would you feel
I'm not
comfortable
that
with? What would you feel
confident.
comfortable
Like
with?
50?
50. I'll do 50.
We'll do 50.
I talked to my advisor.
Shake on it.
All right.
You got to come over here, though.
this is on camera.
I got an injury.
No, it's not on camera.
Yeah, but you're saying that you don't think it's going to happen, right?
I don't think it will happen.
But I think it is going to happen.
now
so
you
why,
do.
Yeah.
But you said 50
But
bucks.
why would you bet
He's
against
giving me a free
you're
50
betting
bucks,
against
dude.
it.
I'm good.
I'm not giving it to him. I'm not giving it. I said, what would you do?
I
didn't say I'm
know,
giving it
but
to him.
I'm pretty much betting on Chris's side, though.
That's fine. That's fine.
So why do you feel
Well, I just
confident?
asked you. You said no, but I said, what would you feel comfortable with? You said
Yeah.
50 bucks. That's why I did.
Yeah, but I said betting for, not betting against.
Oh, well, that changes everything. I wasn't going to shake on that because I honestly, at least I was talking to my advisor. It's on camera.
That's why I'm wondering what you're saying, because I said I think more likely that it's going to happen than it's not. That's why it's more with him.
$50 for him. I
Yeah.
guess. So why would you do $100 on his side though?
Because I'm not that confident. So,
Well,
like,
it's
you're
'cause-
still
'cause
in a
it-
good
'cause you're Jordan
ballpark
Best.
regardless, but...
Yeah, I got you.
No, I'm saying, like, you know what I mean? Because the higher the bet, the more the stake, and that's not how... You got to be more confident at that point, you know? And I'm not,
I know how bets work.
yeah.
All right, so why don't we?
So that shows you my value.
Why don't
you
we
know?
also leave it to the audience in the comments?
agree.
All
Let's-
13 of them.
Let's leave it to the audience, all 13.
Steve, how you doing? All right, though.
Hi, Dad.
But who knows with Kamala, you know? Like, who knows if she's going to really do that? Because
Well-
before I wouldn't have bet against it.
What if it was the Fox?
It won't be. Yeah, it won't be with Fox.
No shot.
I do agree with Daily Wire where they did talk about Trump should never have agreed to one debate. He should have said 3 debates or nothing.
Yep.
And then one was for Fox, and then 2 were what was it, ABC and CNN?
Yeah, she chickened out of the Fox.
Was it ABC and CNN? No?
I believe so. Yeah.
So it was still 2 against 1 in terms of bias, and she still wouldn't do it. So it's been the trend the whole time. Drew, get off your phone on the podcast. Anyway, though,
I'm also checking. I'm
videos.
But bottom line,
no, I'm also checking the viewers' consensus about the debate on Instagram.
The bottom line is the American people are not stupid. They are waking up. They're seeing the nonsense. I don't think it really matters. I think the American people on November 5th are going to make the right decision.
I do think we're seeing a lot more.
I think it was a strong ending though too, because it's like, well, you know, why is she not doing this stuff? But I think people are thinking that anyway. Like if you're watching this debate, you probably know most of the stuff. Exactly. But you know how the economy is.
But we can all agree though that it's not this election is not based on people. A lot of people have their minds made up. A lot of people already do.
Yeah.
You know,
well, of course,
it's the people that don't have their minds made up, and that's why.
Yeah, that's why I said I don't think he killed it, but
that's why I asked you that question, because that's literally what matters right now more than anything. So.
But I don't think the Democrats did how they expected to do either. So,
why so? I want to understand that more, because I don't know.
Because again, she avoided talking about policy. She said nothing.
But that's what Democrats do. So why are they going to get upset about that?
I know, but their base is actually demanding more answers from Kamala now.
And she didn't really get
They've been demanding more, and they're not getting answers.
If you didn't know anything about Kamala, and then you
watch
watch
your mouth,
this,
that's racist.
Well, no, he said Kamala. That's why it's throwing me off.
Kamala, whatever.
Which time?
So, but yeah, she didn't really answer anything. So if like you're going into this like, oh, I want to know who she is, you still don't have that answer.
You still have no idea who the hell she is.
I agree, but
maybe a little bit, but
yeah. Overall, though, I still think.
But you can say the same about Trump in a way, I guess. But most people everyone already knows who Trump is. Like
that's what I'm saying, though. But
so you're not really trying to find that out.
If people get misillusioned about what would happen if Kamala's in office based on the current administration.
I think it's going to be fear of the unknown, because again, she's not answering any of the questions.
But
like I said, she is the current administration, is she not?
That's what I keep saying. Yeah. I said current. You know,
and he's saying that Trump should hammer more on that.
Too. But if his tactic was to wait till the very end, like you said, that was a terrible tactic. It was.
He could be waiting for the last debate. That's my point.
I honestly don't think Trump even thought there was going to be another debate. I
don't think he wanted to hammer it the whole time.
Do you guys think Trump would have another debate?
Yes.
Based on not if he would. Do you think Trump expected another debate? I should say.
I think so. Yes.
You really did?
Yes.
What do you think? Do you think Trump actually expected? Not saying he would
accept it
before tonight.
Probably not.
Do you think that was his tactic?
Before tonight, no.
Why do you think they want another debate? Because you guys think the Kamala did better than they expected, though.
Well, and Trump's probably going to realize he didn't blow it out of the park. So I think that's why too. And against Joe Biden, you're like, that was clear and obvious. But Trump destroyed him.
Yeah, I just don't think Trump did as strong as you guys think. Because the fact that
I don't think he did strong.
No, I don't think he did strong either.
As strong as you guys think. I didn't say he didn't do strong.
But again, my opinion is I think he's feeling out to see how she's going to react to certain answers, and he's saving it for the final debate for those knockout blows. That's how I feel.
Like I asked you, though. That's why I asked you that. Do you think Trump expected another debate?
After seeing tonight?
No.
Probably.
That's because expected. So
beforehand, I didn't think that.
But you guys were acting like it was calculated. Do you think he was feeling it out for the next debate? That's what your answer was. That's what you're saying now. But you're telling now. Do you actually believe he was expecting another debate?
Yes, because generally, this is my point. Generally, there's usually 3 debates for the presidential election, so that's why he's expecting it, and that's my take.
But she's already denied it, though.
What, a third debate?
She's already denied 2.
With Fox. Did 3. She'll take it with someone else. She'll take it with another liberal outlet. Maybe CNN again. Who knows? But she definitely won't take one with Fox.
Oh, yeah, we've seen that with Joe Biden. I got you. I don't know. Like
CBS.
I said,
could be CBS.
I didn't feel as confident as I wanted to tonight. That's just my opinion.
I feel like you had higher expectations than you should have.
Well, if you guys watch back what I said the whole time, I meant it. Like what I'm saying, like he should have done this, this.
I expected a little more out of Trump, but at the same time, I knew it was.
I think we just have high expectations. That's why.
That is
because we know he's killing her.
I think he did the best he could with what he was given.
I think we're always expecting the knockout blows.
That's why I think he did good, because I think
I'm
expecting a lot, and it's like, well, that might be too much I'm asking for.
Maybe it's my fault because I'm expecting Kamala to do a lot worse.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
That's where, but
I thought she was going to do a lot worse. She actually did all right. So.
Yeah.
Even though, again,
no real answers. Yeah.
All right, everyone shut up. Everyone shut up. Drew, what do you think?
I just told you he did the best he could with what he was given.
How so?
Do you think this was even relatively close to the same debate as Biden?
No.
Why is it different though? Is it because of the commentators or because of Biden's state of mind? I want to understand what you're saying.
Kamala obviously has a better state of mind than Biden, and yes, the commentators in this time around are
Commentators definitely nudged a little bit more.
Yeah.
Well, do you think it's because it was so
Definitely
strategic though? I don't want to interrupt Drew though. Go ahead.
No, I'm going along with what Drew was saying too. I'm just
So you just think it was the commentators though? I think that's why.
No,
it's
not
different?
just the commentators. It's he's finally up against someone who can not give it back to him, but at least put up a good
comprehend what he's saying.
Yes, but also put up a good fight or debate.
Yeah. What were we saying?
I have breaking news.
What's
As
up?
of just now at 11:16 p.m. tonight, Taylor Swift has officially endorsed Kamala Harris after the debate.
Well, no shocker there.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It's like,
Breaking.
But you got to remember,
it's
we
official.
all joke about it, but she does have a significant
Oh, for
influence on the
sure.
population.
Yeah,
she
for
does.
sure.
So it's definitely a
That's
little
what I'm
concerning.
saying.
But
But I feel like
it.
people-
it's just crazy.
Listen,
Nobody even pays
listen,
attention.
though, listen,
They just
listen.
vote based off of artist.
Yeah, but first of all, everyone that likes Taylor Swift already was feeling that way before.
True.
Come
I
on,
agree.
it's not going to affect anything. It's really not going to affect anything.
But it's going to open up like the eyes to the purple folks that we're calling them now. It's going to be like, oh, why are they endorsing
The grimaces of the world.
Those freaking normies.
Turtle could be running for president for the Democratic Party, and she endorsed. It doesn't matter.
Not a bad idea.
It doesn't matter.
I don't know.
It's just the party.
Like I said, it was. I expected more. Maybe it's my fault. Maybe I expected her to do worse. Maybe that's the problem. But
I did. I for sure didn't think she would do that good. She actually.
But
did
I don't know if her success though was her
So-
being as good, or is it because the commentators? I really mean that.
I think
though.
it's a mix of both.
I think, to summarize, we were expecting too little of Kamala and too much of Trump, and that's where we both.
That's
where we
yeah,
all
we're
fell
realizing
off.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. Very good summarization.
And that fact, he did pretty good.
I agree. Well, overall, I think he won, but it's also we all have a bias here. We all have a bias. Let's just
Exactly.
admit it.
No
So,
kidding.
but
That's our
that's why I
thing.
asked you that question to begin with.
Well, we're giving Kamala her credit.
What's what I'm saying, but I don't know where her credit's coming from.
I know.
though.
I don't like nothing. Oh yeah, this is what she thinks about this policy.
I think
It's
she
like,
was-
I'm not like, oh yeah, that's great.
I think the commentators
No.
helped, but she was calculated though. She definitely was more
Yeah, she was
calculated.
prepared.
Yes, and then she had her I do agree with him though. She had it memorized of what she was going to say next, and he's like, "Oh, they
Yeah,
when he
but then
called
it
her
goes
out.
back to the fact it's like you're doing nothing now that it's helping the economy. You're doing nothing now that's helping the border.
I know your answer, Chris. Who are you looking forward to talk or listening to tomorrow in terms of podcast?
What?
Who are you listening to tomorrow for podcast for the debate? I know you're listening to stuff tomorrow.
Probably Crowder. I'm going to start with Crowder first. Yeah.
I know you. You're Shapiro. Only Shapiro.
Most likely.
Yeah,
Shapiro
and Drew,
folks.
you'll be editing this video tomorrow, so that'll be fun.
I'll think about it.
So, anyone else?
What's that?
Thank you guys so much for tuning in to Be Better Boys. This is Zach, your host. It's
To
been
all-
interesting.
To all the grimaces out there,
Goodbye.
we hope you learned something from us.
Guys,
Buy the shake.
it's been real. It's by the
And vote Donald Trump.
yeah. It's been real. It's been fun. It's been real fun.
If you would like us to
all right,
see,
all right,
okay,
all right.
Love you,
Thank you guys
boys.
so much, guys. Please like, comment, subscribe, and
Dislike it if you dislike
and
it.
dislike it if you
Follow
dislike
us
it.
on X, Better
Honestly,
Boys
old
Pod.
slogan, old saying from OG. So
Yeah.
thank you guys so much.
repost.
This is the Be Better Boys. Follow us.
YouTube X Rumble.
All right.
Later.
Adios. I'm bye. Do you even know the name of the podcast?
Hold on. I do have to say though, you guys are awesome.